Evan, I'm, like our great friend Jason Pierce, I'm listening to you in the shower. Now, again, there are a lot of people that listen to this program. I can remember, and it's always very strange because of the unique concept of this community that we have every morning. It's always very strange because sometimes the people that listen to this program, it's not just a dude show. It's a show about men and women, and sometimes the more conservative person in the family is the lady, the female. I'm trying to be politically correct here so early in the morning. And they get the husbands listening to the show, and it's always funny when they go, "Oh, we listen to you in bed," and then the guy kind of goes, "Oh yeah, I got to listen. I got to wake up to you, Kevin Miller." So, if you're the reluctant one in the relationship, thank you very much for listening to us. We really appreciate you being here, and of course, we're so blessed once again to have our 4 hours. So, if your day is just starting, we hope it goes very fast. Obviously, if you're one of the members of the zombie squad, the night crew, as we like to say, your weekend is starting. So great, great, great. We do appreciate that the fact that you're done with work. Last night was a huge night. A lot of people are going to be talking about college football. We're going to leave that to the experts, okay? We're going to leave that to the experts. The Kamala Harris interview with Tim Walz, we're going to break that down. Actually, we're not really going to break that down. We're going to hear what you have to say about it, because has there really been a bigger week in politics that we're seeing right now? And we appreciate Bo letting us know our friend Jeff Manasso is joining us, so I don't have to stall anymore. Jeff Manasso of Fox News Radio. We always love having Jeff on. Good morning, sir.
Hey, good morning, Kevin. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you, and we've got a big Idaho story. Mr. Kohlberg, whatever his name is, we still can't pronounce his name here, could be coming to Boise, and a lot of reaction to where his trial is on social media. I know, sir, you have the latest.
Yeah, well, so he was in court yesterday, and along with his attorney and a couple of different experts as it pertains to jury selection, how juries work, media coverage and things like that. And so Brian Kohlberger, through his attorneys, argued before that judge in Latah County that he can't get a fair trial where he's charged, where the defense described essentially a mob mentality in Latah County within potential jurors based on some sort of survey that they did, amid pressure to convict him in the murders of those 4 University of students in Moscow in 2022. And so, so they cite surveys, they cite questionnaires of people saying if he's not convicted, they're going to burn the courthouse down, or they're going to track him down and kill him. Don't know where he got that, but they got that. But that was apparently a questionnaire that they put out there. Court was paused for a while because the third expert they put up was using Facebook posts, and this was live streamed, so we could see it. Everybody could see it, and so the judge said, "Look, we can't have that." So court resumed. We heard terms like media oversaturation, juror bias. We'll see what happens. Obviously there's an intense media presence in the case. Though prosecutors have criticized the survey and the claim, they say, despite the media coverage, that a fair and impartial trial can be held in Moscow. But the hearing yesterday, Kevin, ended with Judge John C. Judge not making a decision. He's going to make a decision. He's going to review everything. He's going to go through the law again, and it'll take time. Now, if this is moved, say, to Ada County, your neck of the woods, or somewhere else, he has the ability to move with the trial. But the prosecution says, we can do a number of different things in terms of, surveys and vetting people to make sure that this is a fair trial in Latah County. But also they argue, the prosecution, that, this makes it tough for families to travel if this thing is moved hundreds of miles away. So we'll see what happens. Kohlberger's obviously pled not guilty. His trial, in which he could face the death penalty, is set for next June.
Yeah, Jeff, and it's funny, east of the Great River, y'all have like cities every 30, 40 miles here. Moscow is like an 8-hour drive. So we'll see how that plays out. Of course, we have the precedents because of the Eastern Idaho cases of the Daybells. Ada County, much bigger, much larger, and can house the intense media scrutiny. And again, you're going to have a little bit more security here than up there, but it'll be, as you just detailed, sir, it's going to be a tough decision by the judge.
Well, there's a lot of high profile trials that that can be fair in the eyes of some. I mean, look no further than Minneapolis and the trial against the police officer convicted of murdering George Floyd. I mean, there was no bigger case than that, and his defense team argued the same thing. They can't get a fair trial. The judge ruled against them. This is obviously a very, very important story, and we'll see what happens. But there is a lot of media coverage surrounding it. We wait and see the decision.
Jeff Manasso, another week, and then you'll be seeing your beloved Packers playing. Are you excited?
Yeah, the Eagles. We'll see, my friend. God, I haven't even gotten that far. I mean, it's just been so busy political wise and just nuts. I haven't really had time to digest the season, but I think we're looking good.
Well, you're doing better than my beloved Patriots, and for so long we had the power advantage over you, and now the situation has reversed.
We'll see, my friend.
Jeff Manasso, have a great day, sir. Always a pleasure.
You too. Thanks, Kevin.
All right, always a pleasure to have our friend Jeff Manasso on from Fox News Radio. Remember, when you're listening to Fox News Radio, there's only one home for Fox News on the radio. It's KIDO Talk Radio, and we have so much to talk about. Again, Spirit of Boise Balloon Classic, great time. We'll be out there tonight. You'll see me wandering around as the guy from Meridian describing, looking like a fat slob. But look, there are a lot of fat slobs. So, in fact, I think with the rate of obesity in this country, I think the fat slobs are taking over. So you'll see me walking around with the only KIDO Talk Radio shirt. Please say hello. It'll be a little socially awkward because this is my alter ego. So I'll be, but just say hey. And very, very non-threatening. And again, we appreciate your commitment to the night glow. If you're new to Boise and the Treasure Valley, get there early to Ann Morrison Park. The event is free, but you got to hike in and hike out, or there's parking here, parking there. It's a challenge. Plan on staying for quite a while and being well hydrated. And please, as we say, don't bring your dogs. We love the dogs. I love the dogs. I love that the Idaho Humane Society is helping the folks in the Best Friends Animal Shelter, helping our friends at the West Valley Animal Shelter that has needed help for years in Canyon County. But please don't bring your animals. The balloons scare them. We frighten them. We don't want anyone losing their dogs. So we start with the interview last night. Maybe you watched it, maybe you didn't. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. And I know you're going to say it's Kamala, or I know. Sometimes you just have that, like Kohlberger. Is it Kohlberger, whatever his name is. That jabroni. But, you sit back and you think to yourself, okay, the vice president and her vice president nominee, Walz. I know his name's Walz, but this is a show for entertainment purposes only, so we like to say Minnesota Waltz. Someday I'll play the Minnesota Waltz if there is one. But there are so many things to go over and so much to react to at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. And until they invent a way that you can talk back in real time to your television, we have each other. And one of the things that Dana Bash, who is not a fan of conservatives, not a fan of being fair, but she had to be careful because she is the entree. She is the first service to Harris trying to be responsible to the media. And I think sometimes it's hypocritical when people go, oh, responsible to the media. As if the media cares about what is right and what is wrong. They care about the media. They care about themselves. And they should just have a disclaimer. If you're watching this, if you're listening to this, we really don't care about you. We don't really care about what's right. All we care about is ratings and numbers and everything else. That's all we really care about. So we're going to get to Harris in a minute. But the guy lied. Walz. And for years and years, and folks in Minnesota have tried to keep this guy accountable. And it's tough when you go up against the governor of Minnesota. And they've got great talk show hosts in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, a guy by the name of John Justice. Cat was on fire in Tucson, on fire in a good way. finally got to the bigs, went to Minneapolis. And I can remember reading about John Justice 20 years ago. And the guy, had a heart attack, almost died. But he's a committed talk show host. I've seen him on all the news shows. Good dude. And like all talk shows, we don't talk to people in public. But he pointed this stuff out, that this about Minnesota Waltz has been going on for quite some time. And in Idaho, we do our best not to be liars. And in Idaho, we do our best to be role models. But what does it really say about a guy and a media that is in love with the Somali population? Okay, that's great. You're going to change the flag to look like Somalia? Is this the United States of Somalia? What's up with that, Waltz? And the idea that he's so left-wing that he makes Kamala more left-wing than Joe look moderate, which is saying something. The idea that, and people are giving Donald Trump a rough time about Arlington, and I believe that Donald Trump had permission for military families to be there. And if you're not in the military, there are codes of conduct. And maybe it's a little different now. I mean, I saw a dude in full uniform with a beard. When I was in the military, and I was a horrible troop, I mean, people got gigged if their mustache was like a quarter of an inch too long. Now, I guess they have religious preferences or whatever. This is not a dig, but you can have a beard in the military. And I'm going, that just doesn't seem right. But there are things, like our friend Todd Carlson, who was one of the soldiers at the Tomb of the Unknown. Not everybody can do that. And Arlington is sacred. And so here you have Donald Trump, by the way, with Spencer Cox, not a Trump guy. All of a sudden he is, because he's in trouble in Utah, appearing with him. By the way, the governor of Utah was at this thing. And you're not supposed to take photos. And apparently Mr. Trump got permission to take photos. And now people are saying, no, he didn't. Yes, he did. No, he didn't. Yes, he did. And it's great how the Democrats have made this all about Donald Trump and Arlington, when in fact it was Arlington that tried to keep out the former flippin' president. Are you kidding me? And so now we're on that, but it's okay for Walz to lie about going to war. Not once, but numerous times. It's okay for Walz to lie about being a command sergeant major. The command sergeant major that I know, and by the way, General Gayhart, thank you very much for listening. We appreciate you. I really appreciate that email yesterday. The command sergeant major that everybody in the military knows around here is retired command sergeant major Phil Hawkins, who served in Vietnam. And he's the epitome of the example of class, honor, and dignity, and still continues to serve, that guy. And there's nothing wrong with saying you're an E8. Not many people get to be an E8. You're a master sergeant, but don't sit there and lie on the campaign and say that you went to war and all these things so you can grab guns and all these things and then lie about it. So here we have Dana Bash, and she's going to talk to these guys, and she's going to say, hey, Minnesota Waltz. And it's funny, she apologizes for the question. And it would be one thing if these guys treated everybody the same way. The Republicans, they punch in the face. The Democrats, they give them a nice caressing back rub.
The country is just starting to get to know you. I want to ask you a question about how you've described your service in the National Guard. You said that you carried weapons in war, but you have never deployed actually in a war zone. A campaign official said that you misspoke. Did you?
Well, first of all, I'm incredibly proud. I've done 24 years of wearing the uniform of this country. Equally proud of my service in a public school classroom, whether it's Congress or the governor. My record speaks for itself, but I think people are coming to get to know me. I speak like they do. I speak candidly. I wear my emotions on my sleeves. And
so great. We're going to get a guy that doesn't think before he speaks. And if you watch this thing, and I know a lot of you go, Kevin, I can't afford cable. I get it. Now you can watch the clips on YouTube. But the image of Walz to the left, Harris to the right, he towers over her. He literally towers over her. It is, and I don't want to say, I'm not going to be the guy that says she looks, kind of like a small little gremlin next to the guy. I don't think that gremlins are racial, so we don't even want to go to the racial element of it, but she looks very small and inconsequential next to the white privilege guy. Can I say that? Okay, I don't want to say the DEI vice president, which she was. Can't say that, Kevin Miller. The DEI vice president wants to be the DEI president, looks very, very small and marginalized next to the white privilege guy. And look, Walz is a white privilege guy. Shame, 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 white privilege guy.
Speak especially passionately about our children being shot in schools and around guns. So I think people know me. They know who I am. They know where my heart is. And again, my record has been out there for over 40 years to speak for itself.
And
dude, you're a liar. So are you going to say you're a liar?
the idea that you said that you were in war. Yeah. Did you misspeak as the campaign has said?
Yeah, I said we were talking about.
Did you misspeak? Hey, I'm going to say that to the bosses at work. Maybe you should do that as well. Kevin, did you do your report? It was my intent to do the report. And in my mind, sir, I did the report. In fact, in my mind, I did everything that I detest and that you tell me to do. I'm going to use that one. I misspoke. I misspoke when I said that I really went somewhere and I didn't. Kevin, did you deliver? Let's just use an example with Mrs. Miller. Kevin, did you deliver the flowers? Mrs. Miller, I did my very best. And in my mind, I went to CUNA to deliver the roses. And in my mind, I did that. I misspoke. Yeah, that wouldn't be good for Kay Millie. Wouldn't be good for anybody, but it's good for Walz.
This was after a school shooting, the ideas of carrying these weapons of war. And my wife, the English teacher, told me my grammar is not always correct. But again, if it's not this, it's an attack on my children for showing love for me, or it's an attack on my dog. I'm not going to do that. And the one thing I'll never do is I'll never demean another member's service in any way. I never have, and I never will.
Yeah. Walz. Wow. We have our on-show monitor, Mateo, saying, you sound rough this morning. Well, thank you for listening, Mateo. All right, phone number's here, 580-5436-580-KIDO. Coming up, we're going to hear from R&R and Paulie and you. It is Friday. We're rolling on the right side with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Wasn't really anything else. By the way, she was asked about fracking, and a young star of conservatism, Sherman Singleton, who's really good on CNN. By the way, good morning. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio, 580-5436-580-KIDO. We're going to get to our calls in a second, but this guy is good. This guy is good. Let's take a listen.
That you support the Green New Deal, but you also support fracking. Those two ideals are not consistent. The end result of supporting the Green New Deal is to end fossil fuels. You can't say I support this, but also, by the way, you can have your fracking too. And so for people in Pennsylvania, those skeptical folks that are in the middle, that 5% that may determine which way that state goes, they're going to look at that and they're going to say, well, is this political pandering? Is this political expediency? Is the vice president saying whatever she needs to say to potentially win, but she doesn't believe it? And we weren't clear. She did not give a clear or decisive answer in that regard.
All right, Sherm, appreciate you. Let's go to the phones. It's been a while. R and R on KIDO Talk Radio.
Just to the mountain people, it's laugh out loud, me and my 5-year-old kitty cat. Hey, calling you directly from Bowles Shoals, Alabama this morning.
Roll Tide Roll.
18 nautical miles north by west of Bowles Shoals. In my mind, no, I'm back in the town you're soon to be the mayor of. But I want to get down to business. Two things. I was going to call you for Father's Day, but I didn't, so that's the last time I called. So back in June. Question for you: have you and the Colonel made a plan to go see Sitting Bull, Custer's Last Stand yet? No? Yes, no?
I will tell you that the Colonel was here for the first time in 5 years. He and the Mrs. Colonel, otherwise known as Mom, so he's referring to my dad, and they think they're going to move out here, number one. Number two, which they're welcome to do. Number two, I have renamed the building that we work in the George Armstrong Custer Building. It seemed like a good idea at the time on both fronts.
You're talking to indigenous human Scott right now, okay?
But they shouldn't have a problem with that. They beat Custer.
Yeah, but why did you name your building? You're looking.
It seemed like a good idea at the time.
You're looking for a seismic activity earthquake to implode the building. When you put a name like, yeah, no, Custer, not a fan of Custer. All right, I gotta give you. We'll pick it up. I called in your screener. Don't know him by name anymore.
His name is Fred
What am I-
Bolitnikoff.
Cool enough, good enough. And my name's R&R for Raucous and Rowdy. Hey, it's been just so much minutia, and I miss the humidity. And I've got really good news for you, since I missed you. You know what a padre is, and you know what transubstantiation is. My padre of 12 years left Jim County and now he came from Brazil, so he's bilingual. He holds authority in Boise. When you're talking old school, he doesn't do Latin, but you want to find, his name is Oscar. He's now...
Yeah, I was going to say, I have a mutual friend of mine that knows Father Oscar, yes.
Father Oscar. I'll tell you what, you want to befriend Father Oscar? Buy some it doesn't have to be $20 a liter, but like $12 bottle of Merlot, and get 2 straws and sit and rap with him. That'll get you the inner sanctum. He knows me well. I wept. I could not withhold my weeping on his farewell. That's how much I'm going to miss. It's tough to call a man that's younger than you padre, but he's a true padre. You and Oscar are going to change the world. That's what I want to tell you. Transubstantiation is the truth, and Merlot is the key to his heart. Love you.
Well, thank you very much.
Happy Labor's Day. Don't let your
Happy
meatloaf
Labor Day,
brother.
and good to have R&R back. R&R, thank you for the call. By the way, welcome to Father Oscar in Boise. Gem County's loss is our gain, and quite frankly, sir, we need all the spiritual salvation we can get from one sinner to another. Let's go to Paulie with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Hello, Paulie.
Top of the morning to you, laddie. How's the laugh? Feel
Well,
all right?
we're bringing salvation.
Okay, you just referenced somebody that was my favorite receiver from the 70s, and that was Freddie Bolitnikoff. We called him Freddie the Fingers Bolitnikoff. And it wasn't because he put so much goop on his hands so that the ball would stick to him, but he ran the smallest, shortest routes to the sidelines, and during a 2-minute drill, I still haven't seen any coach that comes close to the coach for the Raiders at that time, John Madden. He became the announcer on what is it, CBS CBS football at that time. Later, and Madden knew how to use that 2 minutes to its fullest. He didn't if he had 3 timeouts, he wouldn't take them unless he absolutely had to take one. He would run a play to the outside, get out of bounds, and stop the clock. And he was a master at it. I've never seen anybody even close to what Madden could do with that. And that's a fine art to be able to pull that off and not use all of your timeouts unless you have to get into the middle of the field before the kick if you're going to kick a field goal to win the game. And I was a devoted Raider fan until they moved to L.A., and then they became the Chokeland Raiders. And I refused to watch any of their games. But I was actually, believe it or not, when I was 8 years old, we went to a football game up in Oakland, the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum. And it was a bunch of us Y Indian guides with our parents, with our fathers.
Wait a minute, you were an Indian guide?
I was a Y Indian guide. Yeah, we were the Modoc.
Yeah, I was an Indian guide too. I always wanted to be a Boy Scout, but I could never cut it. But anyway, please go ahead.
Well, anyway, it just so happened it was the day before my birthday, and I thought it was kind of special to be able to go there. And just before halftime, the band lined up between the 2 stands. And so I had a bag of peanuts, and I thought it would be fun to run down there to to the edge of the guardrail and start throwing peanuts down the tuba. So I started throwing peanuts down the tuba and got reprimanded by one of the guys with the yellow coats and told me to sit down with my parents. And and that game was actually the Heidi game. I was at the Heidi game, if you can believe that or not. And that was a long time ago.
That is, Paulie. Yeah, and who would have thought just mentioning Fred Biletnikoff would bring up so many memories this morning?
Oh yeah, great memories though, because that was a team. Excuse me. I know now quite a bit more about the team than I did then. Of course, the defense was Phil Villapiano and then Otis Sistrunk and Ted Hendricks and Lester Hayes. You name it, they had a great team, but they were cheaters, and I didn't look at it that way. Excuse me, I didn't look at it as them being cheaters, but that's what they were.
Well,
they cheated every.
You know what we say around the broadcast center: if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
Yeah, that's true, but they would hold the other players and keep them from performing their blocks, and that would cause them to get snuffed at the line. And they did stuff that other teams didn't necessarily do or get caught at. But the Raiders, they were looking for the Raiders to do that, so they would get those flags on them all the time. But I was actually at the Heidi game, and that was the day before my 8th
right,
birthday.
the Heidi game, which a lot of people don't know, is when NBC cut away. Paulie, anything else you'd like to share with us this morning?
No, just have a blessed day and keep your head up, and just know that the right team is going to end up in first place as president and vice president. And I believe it's going to be Donald J. Trump, and I believe it's also going to be J.D. Vance. That's it.
All right, young man, and keep the stickum to yourself.
Yeah, the goop. Yeah. See ya.
All right. Thank you, Paul. I appreciate you. More coming up from the vice president. We've got a long way to go and a short time to get there. Don't forget our friends at Beacon Plumbing. We love Beacon Plumbing. They bring us Fox News, which will come up next after Dave Burnett's Traffic. KIDO Talk Radio, Traffic. Let's get you to work.
He never got there. He went to Delaware, and he's laying on a beach sleeping all day long. No, seriously, who the hell wants to sleep? And who wants to sleep in public? He's sleeping. Do you think President Xi of China is at a beach sleeping? Do you think Kim Jong-un is sleeping from North Korea with his nuclear weapons all over the place? They don't sleep so much. And we have a guy sleeping. And she's incompetent.
How would you like to wake up to that in the morning? Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Blessed to be with you. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. So we've covered Minnesota Walz saying that he speaks candidly, that he has poor grammar. Look, we all know who has poor grammar here. It's me. However, Governor Walz is saying that I misspoke when you lied about going to war. Come on, man. And the vice president giving her thoughts on I didn't ban fracking when I did ban fracking. We'll get to the CNN fact checker that reluctantly said, yeah, she still is banning fracking. And like our boy Sherm Singleton said, a great guy, an incredible guy on CNN, along with Scott Jennings. I don't know why they allow these guys to go on, but you can't say you're for the Green New Deal, which eliminates all carbon footprints, and you're in favor of fracking. And look, we're a blue-collar show. And in the America that most of us grew up in, and I'm sorry, Generation Z, I'm sorry, millennials, I guess there's a shirt going around that says, Generation X was the last generation that remembers when America was great. I don't believe that. America is still great. America is that city, that shining city on the hill. See that quote? It's from Ronald Wilson Reagan. And we have to be optimistic. But when you have folks that sit there and openly lie, it's like Minnesota Walz. Okay, you didn't go to war, bro. You chose not to go. You left. You pieced out. Own it. Kevin Miller, the guy calls in, you're a fat slob. Own it. Okay. So what? Who cares? Just be who you are. Isn't that what the folks always talk about, the young people being authentic and transparent? Wouldn't that be great if our politicians were that way, authentic and transparent? And we're seeing, again, this is a sideways softball interview. And what really irked me, and there are people, and this is why we love having people on, achievers, people from Idaho or that have moved to Idaho that have made a difference in their lives. I love to be inspired. We love to be inspired by people. Theo Wold, okay? Humble origins, working at the White House. And instead of taking the big money, he works to hold people in Idaho and America accountable. God bless him. Congressman Fulcher, same way. The Attorney General, Raul Labrador, the same way. And whether you grew up in a traditional family, single-parent family, grandparent family, middle class, lower class, and you believed in the American dream, you believed in the meritocracy, and life wasn't fair, but you flippin' made it. And I will tell you, we're all a product of where we were born and whether you're a military brat like me or what have you. But I know the people, the tradespeople, that are doing quite well now, as opposed to the people with the college degrees. You know, we wrote about this on KIDOTalkRadio.com. A lot of the remote workers are being called back home to communist California because they want your control. They want to control your lives. And as we detail in the article, how would you like to be one of these workers that had it made during the pandemic? You sell your high-priced California home for a lot of money. You come in either at the height of the market or before the market, and now Baryshnikov, Khrushchev, is calling you back home, and you have to go back or you're going to lose your job, and you have to sell your home at a loss, and then you're going to back to, as Paulie calls it, California, and you're going to lose more money because houses there are still expensive. And unless you're an illegal alien, when you get $150,000 to, in fact, get a home. I'm not kidding. The legislature just passed that law, and we'll see if Gavin Newsom signs it. But what I'm saying is this program, and it's very hard, and we're so blessed to have been in Idaho for over 15 years. And again, it's not an act. This is my real class paranoia. We want to make it to 30 years. 30 years of doing nothing but talking to people and really listening to people, as John Mounts broke down the secret sauce of this show. And in my heart of hearts, this program has always been for you, the people that work 1 or 2, 3 jobs. It was great to see Two Fly Bry at the Balloon Classic. It was great to see people that have challenges and overcome them. And, you know, the people that they work, and if they don't work, they don't eat. The middle class. And maybe you're like me. When you grew up, there was a lot of people in the middle class. Now we see the haves and the have-nots, and that's not a way America should be. Which brings me to fracking. And the way the folks, and Kevin, you're going to go, well, why are you watching CNN? Because look, on Fox, everybody agrees. Oh, they're this, that, and the other. CNN, and again, it's a bias, but you find out how the other side thinks. Like, if the libs were smart, and maybe they are, they listen to this program. They may not like me, they may not whatever, but they listen to this program. I can remember one time, the late, great Austin Hill, when he was coming out against school funding, we heard from people that they actually listened to him to find out what the opposition was up to, the libs. So if you're smart, that's what you do. But the whole condescending attitude against people that work every day, you drive a delivery van, you work with your hands, you deal with incredibly demanding people, and all you want to do is know that your kid is going to have the chance at a better life than you. That's what this program's about. And so last night they're talking about fracking and the condescension that they were speaking about with the idea that the vice president who came out against fracking was going to ban fracking, and she didn't say that she was going to rescind that. She didn't, and we'll get to her actual statements, but back to what Sherm Singleton said. You can't be for the Green New Deal and fracking And if you come out against fracking, as we found out in the first couple of years of the Biden administration, A, it's a national security issue, and B, it's going to cost American jobs. Whether it's in North Dakota, go Bison, or in Pennsylvania, go Stillers. And for those Kellen Moore fans, go Eagles. That's how they pronounce it there. Let's hear the reaction to Harris from CNN last night.
That you support the Green New Deal, but you also support fracking. Those two ideals are not consistent. The end result of supporting the Green New Deal is to end fossil fuels. You can't say I support this, but also, by the way, you can have your fracking too. And so for people in Pennsylvania, those skeptical folks that are in the middle, that 5% that may determine which way that state goes, they're going to look at that and they're going to say, well, is this political pandering? Is this political expediency? Is the vice president saying whatever she needs to say to potentially win, but she doesn't believe it? And we weren't clear. She did not give a clear or decisive answer in that regard.
How can you argue with that? Let's go to AJ in Caldwell on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, AJ.
Good morning. Hey, Kevin, in addition to that, what you just said, also that Infrastructure Act that they had, I think I'm calling it the wrong name, but it was to Inflation Infrastructure Act that they signed into $750 billion. All of that supports green energy as well. And so she actually gets caught flat-footed, and then they don't do digging follow-ups. Donald Trump will take interviews where they'll sit there and dig at one thing like they're trying to open up a scab constantly, and he won't deflect them. He'll answer them, say it's not true, just keep on moving, be smooth with his delivery as far as saying this is wrong, that's not what I said. He'll correct things, and if they don't accept it, he just moves on. She can't. Well,
it's just and I don't mean to interrupt, AJ, but you bring up a great point. It is just the tone that they have with him.
Oh yeah, it's
the lack of respect for
combative.
him.
Yeah, they treat him like he's just not even worthy of speaking to, and that's the whole thing. These people are scripted by Hollywood so much. Even their hand movements, their gestures, having Walz there. The biggest thing they did with him and the camera is when she would say something, he'd shake his head and and just total agreement and yes. And that's the only reason why he was here. It's almost like someone speaking without saying a word. And it's all theatrics. That's the only reason why Democrats are really getting some of these positions. It's theatric. It's all a game. A few sound bites that they're scripted by Hollywood and Hollywood people and their facial expressions. But believe me, these people are being coached all the time how to deliver that so that the masses of people that don't want to look into the facts are going, oh, God, that sounded so perfect. It was emotion. Could you tell? You could tell that she was just so dear and sincere. It's I'm telling you, people just fall for this garbage all the time. That's why it's so important that people dig into policy and facts and then make their decision like Occam's razor and then stick with it. Don't get fooled.
You're right. Don't get fooled. AJ, thank you for the call. We apologize to Patriot Ray for not getting to him. Sean Hannity today at 1 on your home for Hannity, KIDO Talk Radio.
KIDO Talk Radio.
Your morning cup of Sean. This is the Sean Hannity Morning Minute.
And conservatism is what? What do we want? We want less government in our lives, limited government. We want the lowest taxes possible. We want to end the burdensome bureaucracy that is a stranglehold on business. We want secure borders. We want energy independence. We want those high-paying career jobs in the energy sector. We want constitutional justices. People want and deserve cities and towns that are safe and secure. We believe in law and we believe in order. We believe that if our public schools are failing our kids at a spectacular level, our kids deserve better. We want safe schools and we want good schools. It's pretty simple.
The Conservative Underground meets later today on the Sean Hannity Show.
Hey, protect your home and family. Now, it's a responsibility you cannot take lightly, But starting with deadly force, that should not be your first option, especially given the serious mental, financial, legal consequences that can very well follow. You might want to look at non-lethal force. That's where Burner comes in. It's a non-lethal pistol launcher designed by a group of common-sense gun owners, and it's used for everyday Americans concerned about their personal safety and security. Now, the Burner pistol launcher is equipped with powerful deterrents like tear gas and kinetic rounds. The Burner launcher can incapacitate an attacker for up to 40 minutes. Now, that's enough time to ensure your family's safety. The Burner launcher is legal in all 50 states. You can ship directly to your door. It's time to join the growing movement. And they always put safety first. Go to their website, byrna.com/Hannity. You'll get 10% off. Watch their videos, byrna.com/Hannity, 10% off. And make the smart choice for you and your family and your safety today.
I knew he'd get that little echo. Phone number's here, 580-5436. 580-KIDO. I know what you're saying. Kevin, give me some sauce. Give me some Kamala. We're going to get to her in a minute. Also, a story that the national media and the people in the West should be very ashamed of. One of the places that I used to live is under siege. We'll talk about it next. The illegals have literally taken over. And this is what we worry about here in Idaho. We'll tell you about that story next. More of your calls on the Harris-Walz interview, 580-KIDO. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Situation in Aurora, Colorado. You ever been to Aurora, Colorado, a suburb of Denver? All heck is breaking loose, and everybody goes, yeah, what are you going to do about it? I mean, have you heard this story? Have you heard this story? The illegals have actually taken over apartment complexes in America. This is insane. Thank you, liberal people of Denver, Colorado. What are they afraid of? And why hasn't anyone gone in there and got them out of there? Is that asking too much? 580-5436. 580-KIDO. Are you kidding me? It's nothing to laugh about. First the border, now this. Can't wait to hear what you have to say with me next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning. News and information, and you might even hear this.
Same thing that she's been doing for the last few years. She's going to try to make it harder to get American energy from American territory. She's going to make it harder for us to drive down the cost of everything from food to housing. She's going to make it harder for us to enforce our border laws, and she's going to make more chaos and more instability around the world.
Exactly. More chaos and instability around the world. Kind of sounds like this program. Phone number's here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Always appreciate you listening. Of course, we have the app yappers. We have Kevin at KIDOTalkRadio.com, at Kevin Miller Show, available on all social media outlets. Coming up, we're going to take a look at really this situation involving the folks in Aurora, Colorado, where they've come out and they've said that apartment complexes have been taken over by gangs of illegal immigrants, illegal aliens that are in Aurora, Colorado. And as we've said, we wonder if the people in Colorado are shipping the illegals here. They are to Utah, and they were caught in Utah. In other news of the day, we are getting your reaction to the Vice President Harris interview and how her position continues to change again and again and again. We can't wait to hear what you have to say about that. Also, a recall if you're a person, and a lot of people love boar's head meat, the deli meat. There's a recall. We'll tell you about that in a minute. First, Jared Alpern joins us from Fox News Radio, live from Washington. Good morning, sir. Good morning, Jared. Good to have you with us.
Good morning. How are you?
Not bad. And everybody's talking about the big interview last night. We were cheering for a late-night edition of you, but sadly that didn't happen, sir.
No, I was watching on the couch like most people. Listen, I think it was an interview that was largely kind of standard fare, right? I mean, it's not unusual coming out of a convention for a nominee and the running mate to do these types of sit-downs, a little bit of background about them, a little bit of personality, talking about some of the issues. In the case of Harris, kind of pressing her on some of her policy changes over the years, notably a ban on fracking that she says she now does not support. All that being said, it took on, a life of its own, largely because the Harris campaign had not done these types of engagement 5 weeks since she became the presumptive nominee. And so I don't know if that was for better or worse. It certainly made this interview a lot more important than I think it otherwise may have been, because if you do a lot of these, one a week, a few a week, or whatever it is, there's kind of like a dilution by numbers, right? So maybe the idea was to make this a big deal, make it heavily watched, get a lot of people to tune in. And for CNN, certainly they saw that significance by holding it until prime time, right? Putting it at 9 Eastern time, big audience, they hope, and not kind of doing it in the middle of the day. And so we'll see, I guess, what the payoff was. But I just think that the way that campaigns kind of think about media has shifted and changed so much over the last couple of cycles because of the media landscape, because there are so many options out there. I do think you're going to see a lot of local media utilized. That is a pretty common way for campaigns to get their message out, right? Talk to news stations right there in those swing state communities. But we've also seen over the last couple of cycles how, non-traditional media, whether it be like streaming services or social media platforms, have become pretty prized there by campaigns because they can reach such a targeted audience.
Yeah, I'm with you, but she went up against Coach Prime last night, so we'll see how that played out. And
yeah, well,
it appears that the Harris campaign
swing state like it used to be, huh?
No, it appears the Harris campaign. I'm trying to think. Well, maybe not the Harris campaign, but the Democratic Party seems to have a thing. And I know you get mad when I try to lead you here, but CNN really has made out. They had the debate. Now they had this exclusive. It's looking good, pretty good for CNN, at least until the ABC debate.
Yeah, listen, I think that, they certainly have, tried to position themselves, and a lot of that is done kind of, with relationship building or the like. But you're right. Listen, CNN getting that first debate, CNN getting this first joint interview is significant. Again, to that point, it's just if more of these interviews start to happen and you see Harris and Walz, probably Harris more, Walz was not a big part of that interview. I know it was a joint interview. He didn't get a lot of questions. I think, we'll see again what that campaign strategy is, right? Campaigns kind of make decisions on who they want to speak to based on who they think it will reach and the impact it will have. And clearly campaigns, in the Harris campaign especially, has made that calculation that they thought that they could maybe get the biggest impact from sitting down with CNN. I hope that they sit down with Fox. I hope they sit down with everybody, right? Because I do think that when you're running for president, you have a responsibility to get those questions out and answers for, as many Americans as possible. But to that point, listen, this is a campaign that came together in a matter of weeks, not a matter of months or years like most presidential campaigns do. And so it's going to be run differently. I think that's just the nature of the calendar and the nature of kind of the circumstances by which Kamala Harris now finds herself running for president of the United States.
So where do we go from here? And will there be a second interview? And like you just said that, but I mean, or could we see, going back to the idea that new media is more important than old media, that, well, we had the interview, we're going to the debate, and we're going to try to limit these options because we don't have to really interview with Jared Halpern or David Murr?
Yeah. Listen, I don't know what their interview schedule is going to look like. I know that they are on the campaign trail most of next week. Harris is doing an event actually with Biden on Labor Day. The debate is September 10th. I imagine both campaigns take a lot of time to prep for that. That is going to be a big debate, especially for Harris, given what happened in June. And so I would not be surprised if you do see next week maybe a couple of slower, maybe down days as she preps for that debate. That's an important event, right? That's the next kind of touchstone event here on the election calendar. It is after Labor Day, kind of the home stretch here of the fall campaign. It is the maybe only time that we see a debate between Trump and Harris. So that debate in less than 2 weeks now is a significant event, and I would not be surprised if you see most of the focus kind of on that type of prep. Now, maybe they decide that doing a couple of media interviews between now and then helps with that prep. I don't know. But that really is the next major seminal event here in this presidential election.
And what about the president? The former president.
Well,
Sorry, I get confused.
Yeah. Well, the current president or Trump?
The former president. I get confused, and he's out on the road.
I don't know. I mean, that's tougher to predict. Obviously he's in the swing states, spending a lot of time in Michigan, a lot of time in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. Obviously, he does a lot of media interviews. He did one yesterday in which he talked about the abortion issue in a way that he hadn't before. He seemed like maybe he was going to vote against this amendment or vote for this amendment in Florida that angered the pro-life community. His campaign kind of put out a statement and walked that back. He announced in that town hall yesterday this idea of a sort of insurance mandate for IVF. That, again, is something that is brand new, had not really been a part of what we had heard from the president before. But it does show, I think, one of those vulnerabilities, right? Both campaigns are dealing with some vulnerabilities. For Harris, obviously, it is the economy, energy, the border. That's why you're seeing her kind of talk about that in a way that she hadn't when she was running for president 4 years ago. For Trump, clearly this abortion issue is one that he is trying to wrestle with, right? We have seen a lot of polls show that is an issue that is energizing Democrats. It is an issue in which Democrats have a big advantage over Republicans. And it's interesting to see that messaging now and how that is viewed by social conservatives and the pro-life community that have been up to this point very supportive of former President Trump.
Jared, anything else we should be looking out for as we get ready for the official kickoff of
everybody? Take the weekend, catch your breath, go to the pool, eat some hot dogs, enjoy your Labor Day, and then on Tuesday, just get ready for that final sprint.
It's go time with Jared Halpern. We appreciate it, sir.
All right, take care.
Thank you. We love having our friends on from Fox News Radio. Appreciate that. Appreciate Jared really breaking it down for us. Let's give you some news you need to know. Remember, they always say that. And I had a gentleman, and by the way, it's so funny. The other day, somebody from work was actually listening. He goes, now I know why you're always a pessimist. I have to listen to your show to figure out who you are. And we've worked together for so many years. And we always reveal things about us. But I had a guy who, again, did not care for me. And I'm not going to say I'm a victim, but look, there are when you're in an industry, what you care about, when you do what you care about, there's a thing called passion. And maybe the older we get, the better we understand people and their motives. You can't be mad at people for caring. Now, maybe you can be mad at people for being apathetic, but you can't be mad at people for caring. But if you notice, and for some radio stations, but mainly it's TV, everything's a cliche. We're doing this, we're doing that. And the most brilliant guy that I've ever been around, and again, not a Kevin Miller fan, his nickname for me was always Captain Cliche. So with that, here's news you need to know. We should do the Jerry Agar voice. I'm trying to do my show, Kevin. Here's news you need to know. No kidding. If you buy deli meat and you buy the boar's head, you need to listen to this story on KIDO Talk Radio.
Turned up dozens of disturbing violations at a boar's head plant in Virginia, including bugs, mold, and puddles of blood. In addition to the Listeria bacterial contamination, the plant at Jarrett received 69 records of non-compliance issued by inspectors over the past year, according to USDA records obtained by CBS News through a Freedom of Information Act. In a statement Thursday, Boar's Head said, in part, no words can fully express our sympathies and the sincere and deep hurt we feel for those who have suffered losses or endured illness. Carmen Roberts, Fox News.
That's so bad. That's not even a big Greg Ferreira uh-oh. So there is a recall. There is a recall on boar's head meat. And by the way, boar's head meat, it's good meat, but it's more expensive. I buy the generic brand, but again, look out for this stuff. There is a recall. Make sure you Google it, schmoogle it. I think somebody did an article, one of our contributors on our website on this, but Boar's Head. And look, there are good people and there are bad people everywhere. What are these people thinking to allow this plant in Virginia to look like the modern day version of Upton Sinclair's The Jungle, man? So there you have it. News you need to know. No choking, obviously, when it comes to keeping your meat safe. All right, coming up next, we're going to talk about what's going on in Aurora, Colorado. And if you want to sound off throughout the morning, this is our top talker of the day.
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. We have to just acknowledge that the residual impact of fracking is enormous in terms of the impact on the health and safety of communities. I think about this issue through the lens of my baby nieces, who are 1.5 and 3 years old. And when I look at those babies, and I think about what the world will be like in 20 years if we don't act, I'm really afraid. And as it relates to those Republicans in Congress, where I've now been for 2.5 years, every one of those members needs to look at the babies, the grandbabies in their life, and then look in the mirror and ask themselves, why have they failed to act?
And in 2019, you said, quote, there is no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. Fracking, as you know, is a pretty big issue, particularly in your must-win state of Pennsylvania.
Sure.
Do you still want to ban fracking?
No, and I made that clear on the debate stage in 2020, that I would not ban fracking. As vice president, I did not ban fracking. As president, I will not ban fracking.
Actually, she didn't. She said that Joe Biden doesn't want to ban fracking. Joe Biden doesn't want to ban fracking. She didn't say that she would not ban fracking.
He even called for termination of the United States Supreme, the supreme land of our nation, the United States Constitution.
Yeah. Another Greg Ferreira, By the way, our friend Greg Ferrer right up after Dave Petzo tomorrow on KIDO Talk Radio. Start your day with money and homes, and then a little of Clay and Buck, and then Kevin Miller. Great programs to keep you informed and entertained all morning long, all day long, all weekend long on KIDO Talk Radio. Phone number is 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Coming up, could what's happening in Aurora, Colorado happen in Meridian, Idaho? We'll give you the details next. Kevin Miller on your talk station, KIDO Talk Radio. Of course, college football kicking off. We've got a complete preview of Boise State versus Georgia Southern. A big game last night. I know a lot of people in media went to the University of Colorado for some reason. Don't know why. I'm sure it's a good school. And of course, they have Coach Prime. And no, we're not going to talk about sports. We are going to talk about one of my old hometowns. And this is the advantage of being a military brat. It is a challenge to be a little kid and move around all the time. Certainly people have moved more than you, more than me. I always admired people that, stayed where they were, grew up with all their old friends, went to, elementary school, high school, maybe college or trade school with people. They've known people for years. Just those roots in the community. For others that their parents were in the military, you moved around a lot. So as a little boy, I had a chance to live in Aurora, Colorado for a year. And it was, what a year to be in the suburb of Denver, which was the Orange Crush year with, what was it, Red Miller, Craig Morton, Randy Gradishar, all the great former Broncos, the Orange Crush defense and the Orange Crush soda. Like I said, folks, you're going to go, Kevin Miller, I'm a young dude. I'm a young woman. I don't care. I grew up in the age of TikTok. I look at Pong as something like the same thing as a dinosaur. You ever want to know what influence, again, like I said, this show is not only for the old people, but it's for the young people too. And what do you mean by that, Kevin Miller? Well, you can find out what influenced your parents and grandparents. If you have trouble relating to the old people, listen to this program. The Orange Crush soda, the Orange Crush defense was a big thing, not only in Denver, but in the West. Of course, they got demolished by the Dallas Cowboys. What was the Super Bowl 77? Where were you, Bo? Oh, what's that, Sweet William? Bo goes, man, I really don't like the history lessons, Kevin Miller. All right, Bo, appreciate it. However, we're all Colorado, so the first time moving away from Ohio, where all good things come from, and I'm there, go to a Catholic school, St. Teresa's, which is still there. I walked to school. We lived in an apartment complex. I remember walking up the hill, and I remember Safeway had those Safeway logos on the carts. And even back then, I loved Captain America, so I grabbed one of those logos off it and would throw it at people. It never really came back to me like the Captain America shield. However, Aurora, Colorado, one of the great places. Central City was not a gambling town. Pikes Peak. Like I said, these are just, things that I remember about being in Colorado. Or is it Colorado? I don't know. I'm not a native Westerner. Sorry. But a very disturbing story. Now, we've heard about areas across the country, border areas, where there's tough hombres, bro. Nobody goes in there. There's actually signs saying that law enforcement can't protect you because of the cartels, the bad guys, everybody else. They're there. Adios, amigos. Don't be going in there, bro. We can't save you. And I'm thinking, don't we have the largest military in the world? Don't we have ships ready to rain missiles down on all the bad people, and yet we can't secure parts of our own native territory? Now it's gotten so bad in Colorado that we have people going on Fox News, an Aurora, Colorado council member, talking about an apartment complex, and this is on the news, where the people are being brutalized because there's a Venezuelan gang, illegal immigrants running the place.
Footage from an apartment complex in Aurora, Colorado that residents say has been overrun by armed Venezuelan gang members. Watch.
It's been a nightmare, and I can't wait to get out of here.
Every day when we come home, we have to do this. Every time we go outside to take out the garbage, every time we try to go to bed at night, we have to keep it like this so nobody can kick in the door.
We tried reaching out to the resources, but they told us since it wasn't actually a condemned building, we would have to wait until that was the issue, but we didn't want to wait for that.
And it's unbelievable, but the governor of Colorado, Jared Polis, is attacking the local councilwoman, Daniel Drzezinski, as she stands up for those residents, calling it all her imagination. She joins us now alongside the former head of ICE in the Denver region, who is also running for Congress, John Fabricatori. Thank y'all so much for joining the program. Councilwoman, I'll go to you first. Did you make all of this up? Was this an AI video?
I can't even believe this is the stuff that I am reading. I absolutely did not make any of this up. I love that is how our governor has quickly rushed in to say that that's the actual problem here. But the actual problem here are his weak policies that have turned this state into a breeding ground for this gang activity.
Before I get to John, I want to go back to you, Councilwoman. I'm being told by some of my sources that this is not the only apartment complex. This is happening in other areas as well. Is that true?
That's absolutely true. I currently know of, including the one that you see there in the film, I currently know of 4 others. That's just in Aurora. I do believe that there are some in Denver. Denver police officers are starting to speak out. But of course, I do not represent Denver. I just represent Aurora.
Okay. We all know this. It's been shown on local television. It's been shown everywhere. We're not the police. We're not the police in Boise. We're not the police in Meridian or Nampa or Caldwell or ISP or Ada County, Canyon County. We're not Karen Donahue. But that wouldn't go on here. It shouldn't go on anywhere. In Aurora, Colorado, that's not L.A. It's not Oakland. Aurora, Colorado is a beautiful city. Like I said, St. Teresa's Catholic School. Proud alumnus. And here we have this going on. And is there any wonder why anybody's voting for Biden or Harris? Why in the world would you vote for a lawless regime? And it's not even an administration. It's a regime. And, when you have people like Theo Wold and others who come out and say, hey, man, this is happening here. It could be happening here. What does the local media do? They take the side of the illegals. Oh, no, they're not here illegally. We can prove it. You're a racist. It's no wonder that people are frustrated. No wonder people are tuning into Right Side Broadcasting or Breitbart or shout out to Mark, the watchdog of Eagle, the Gateway Pundit, or the Post Millennial. or this program, thankfully. Are you kidding me? Why? Where is the SWAT team? Where's the National Guard? We're going in and we're getting them out. Obviously, it was a video, so we couldn't share with you. The lady had 3 or 4 locks on the door, plus a stick up against the door. We're not talking about living in Bogota or Panama City, Panama. We're talking about Aurora, Colorado. Is there not anyone that is going to go in and say, enough is enough? And the police are going, yeah, it happens all the time. Are you kidding me? Where's the guts? Where's the this? Where's the that? Literally, have you seen the video? They've got machine guns. Oh, I get it. Thank you, Sweet William, for that. This is going to get us in trouble, but you're right, Sweet William. Why not? It was a good run while it lasted. Can you imagine if those people were the white militia people that we hear about all the time? Oh, the ATF, the FBI, the DEI, the DEA, the thank you, sir, may I have another squad would be there in a second. You cannot allow this to happen. And anyone that thinks that Harris is going to do anything is wrong. You need law and you need order. So I'm sorry for those people in Aurora, Colorado. This is something we have to guard against in our beloved Idaho. Let's get you to work safely and on time. Don't forget our friends at Beacon 580 KIDO. Thanks to Sweet William Productions. I don't know where we'd be without him. He found this concerning the Trump campaign's reaction to Vice President Harris's values, where she says she's changed and everything else. She hasn't. Let's take a listen.
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. You know, we have to stay woke. Like, everybody needs to be woke. And you can talk about if you're the wokest or woker, but just stay more woke than less woke.
The people who are convicted in prison, like the Boston Marathon bomber, on death row, people who are convicted of sexual assault, they should be able to vote?
I think we should have that conversation.
What would you do about the millions of, specifically, assault weapons that are already in circulation? What do you do about those?
Well, there are approximately 5 million, to your point, Craig. We have to have a buyback program, and I support a mandatory buyback program. It is outdated, it is wrong-headed thinking to think that the only way you're going to get communities to be safe is to put more police officers on the street.
It also says, quote, every individual who is a resident of the United States is entitled to benefits for health care services under this act. Not every individual who's a citizen, but every individual who's a resident. So you support giving universal health care, Medicare for all, to people who are in this country illegally?
Let me just be very clear about this. I am opposed to any policy that would deny in our country any human being from access to public safety, public education, or public health, period.
To reiterate, you support the Medicare for All bill, I think initially co-sponsored by Senator Bernie Sanders. You're also a co-sponsor on it. I believe it will totally eliminate private insurance. So for people out there who like their insurance, they don't get to keep it?
Let's eliminate all of that. Let's move on. How dare we speak Merry Christmas? How dare we? And yeah, I am radical. Is my values have not changed.
Very good. Thank you, Sweet William, for finding that. I'm sure Sean will have that today along with Lars Larson, but it's true. Her values haven't changed. Her values haven't changed. If you missed the interview, we will get your reaction to it. We'll hear from you at 580-5436-580-KIDO. Now, I'm trying to figure out which is the more radical take. The more radical take on what Harris said last night. Was it doubling down on price controls? Was it, Harris talking about the defense budget? I think that's the biggest issue. Not only the defense budget, but Joe Biden's cognitive decline. And this is a national security issue, but as I said, if people break the law and we don't enforce the law, are they really outlaws? From Red State via Sister Tolja, her reaction to this, and we'll get yours at 580-5436-580-KIDO. Of all the questions Vice President Harris could have been asked during her CNN interview, the one I wanted to hear the answer to the most, and the one I figured wouldn't get asked, was the subject of the staunch defense of President Joe Biden after his disastrous debate in June. Though it is undeniably confirmed what Biden critics have been saying about his cognitive health for years. Look, we've all seen it. Whoa, whoa, Joe. It even sparked rumors that some Democrats were already talking that very night about how they should get rid of him. Harris boiled the debate down to one bad night out of 3.5 years during an exchange with CNN's Anderson Cooper. She told Cooper, the Joe Biden that I worked with every day is someone who, as I have said, has performed in a way that is about bringing people into the Oval Office, Republicans and Democrats. I don't know one Idaho Republican that has really met with Joe Biden. I know they met all the time, the congressional Republicans, with Donald Trump. And by the way, Mike Pence, I know a lot of people don't like him, but he and Governor Little, they had a great relationship. Throughout all the calls in July from Democrats for Biden to withdraw from the race, including the famous moment where Nancy Pelosi refused to say she supported Biden staying in, Harris never wavered publicly. Last night, she was asked about it. Let's take a listen to it on KIDO Talk Radio.
Vice President Harris, you were a very staunch defender of President Biden's capacity to serve another 4 years. Right after the debate, you insisted that President Biden is extraordinarily strong. Given where we are now, do you have any regrets about what you told the American people?
No, not at all. Not at all. I have served with President Biden for almost 4 years now, and I'll tell you, it's one of the greatest honors of my career, truly. He cares so deeply about the American people. He is so smart and loyal to the American people. And I have spent hours upon hours with him, be it in the Oval Office or the Situation Room. He has the intelligence, the commitment, and the judgment and disposition that I think the American people rightly deserve in their president.
Yeah, hours and hours with Joe wandering around. And by the way, of course, Joe is loyal to the people. Where else can you get a job and get 23 days off after taking 2 or 3 weeks off? They've literally put him out to pasture. And I don't want to be sacrilegious here, but it reminds me of when Pope Benedict was replaced by Pope Francis. All of a sudden, Benedict got sick. And then Benedict was, usually in the Catholic Church, the popes serve until they die. But for some reason, Pope Benedict had to go, so he was allowed to just kind of hang out and be Pope Emeritus. We're seeing this right now with Joe Biden. He is President Emeritus, even though he legally is still the President of the United States. Can you imagine? And again, we all sweat our jobs, except those people that are retired. And if you're retired from California, obviously you're sweating whether or not Gavin Newsom will continue to bankrupt that state and try and bankrupt the pension system. I don't say that to scare you, but we all have our senses of, concern. Some of us are concerned. Some of us are not. Some of us wonder what the heck is going on. And some of us have to earn a living each and every day, right? We have to earn a living each and every day. And here we have Joe Biden, who just sits back and does his own thing. Some people during the Labor Day weekend will be working their second or third job. They'll be in the service to others. But Joe Biden won't be doing that. He'll be hanging out and having a good time at our expense. So when she says the cognitive decline, hey, where's Bob Woodward? Where's Carl Bernstein? Where's all the do-gooders? Where's Glenn Greenwald? Oh, that's right. They banished him to some country where he lives with his house full of dogs. Where are the people that are supposed to hold these folks accountable? We literally have a guy that is sitting there on a beach. Now, when you get fired in broadcasting or wherever, they always say, where are you at? I'm on the beach. And then you say to somebody, I remember one of my buddies, he goes, no, I'm on the beach, literally. He's on the beach sleeping. How many of us wouldn't want to have that job where you just sit back and chill out and don't bother anybody? It pays to be Joe Biden. Okay, let's go to our friend Ron Grant, who joins us. He's got some very important information. Good morning, Ron.
Paid for by Ron Grant, your safer money specialist.
Hello, Ron.
Kevin, you there? Hey, good morning, Kevin. How you doing, buddy?
Good to have you with us, boy. It's all about money and all about keeping it safe, and it's been a wild ride when we're talking money, sir.
It is. And you know what? Let's talk about the longevity planning. Have you or the clients or anybody started planning for longevity? 3 questions. Do you have a lifetime guaranteed income out of the risk and the fees of the Wall Street casino? Will you outlive your money in the 401k plan? And how bad will the next 08 affect your retirement living? My clients and I, we sleep at night, Kevin, knowing that we can't lose our principal. We can't lose our gains. And the most important thing is we'll get a lifetime income that we can't outlive. And that's important because we worked hard for our dignity money to take care of ourselves and our family.
Well, for some, that might be easier said than done. Where can they get the guidance? I know that you like to talk to people, Ron.
Talking is very important. Education is knowledge, and we want to ask them questions. We want to listen a lot, and we want to find out what they want to do with their money, how they want to take it, when they want to take it. So I've set up an educational website, Kevin, that they can go on 24/7. There's articles there that they can read. There's videos there that they can take a look at, and then they can email me from the site. That's safermoneyspecialist.com, or they can call me. Let's have a phone conversation right here in the Treasure Valley, 208-660-1372.
Ron, we appreciate that. Thank you very much for your time, sir.
Thank you, buddy. Have a wonderful day.
Paid for by Ron Grant, your safer money specialist.
Happy Labor Day. More thoughts on Harris. Quote from Red State: I like pancakes and I like bacon. In that sense, I can relate to Kamala Harris, who shared with Dana Bash during her interview that what her family likes, including her baby nieces, who are staying over, had just consumed on Sunday when she got the call from Joe Biden. Yeah, by the way, she goes, I'm going to tell you too much information. By the way, here's what I don't get. Before sharing this little homey family vignette, Harris said to Bash, it was like blank was a Sunday, so here I'll give you too much information, like she was sharing something similar to a national security secret called TMI. And did you hear that where she busted out and giggled? It was just plain weird. Very socially awkward for the vice president. Very socially awkward. Our numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. And again, we always give proper attribution. This is how Red State describes where Joe Biden is on the beach. Beach blanket bingo continues in Delaware. Coming up next segment, next hour, Boise State goes to court. This is a big one that a lot of people aren't paying as much attention to as they should. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Here at a Boise Balloon Classic, the night glow, and we're going to be glowing. Let's go to Pro Life, who joins us now on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, the Pro.
Yeah, good morning. Yeah, I think President Trump is really out to lunch and made a big mistake promoting in vitro fertilization. I don't think it's a proper role of government. And but anyway, what it does is in the process of in vitro fertilization, they take a lot of the woman's eggs and they take a lot of sperm, and so it creates more babies than just one that the woman wants. So then they have a bunch of babies that they have to either kill or else they have to put them in a frozen state, and they become what's called snowflake babies. And so there was about 1 million of these snowflake babies about 5 years ago, and I'm sure it's a lot more now. And it is just so atrocious to think that there's people that are frozen, down some way down below zero, and they're just waiting to be adopted or taken out of there or die, and their souls are tied up, I think, to those little bodies. And it's just the most atrocious kind of a thing that I can think of. And if you don't have good enough health to have a baby in and of yourselves, maybe you don't have a good enough health to nurse or raise that child. And so I think you just have to go with God and nature, or you're going to get in big trouble. And I hope people realize that Trump doesn't have good sense in this. But, hey, there's others that are like this. Ted Cruz says the same kind of thing. And so we need to get back to Trump and his people.
So it's official. You've
up.
come out against in vitro.
Exactly. God's against in vitro fertilization. I mean, we can't get a hold of him to have him tell us that he is. So I believe I'm speaking for him, and I'm sure I'm speaking for him.
You're saying you're speaking for God?
Yeah, I think that it's the same thing
Boy, that's
about abortion.
sacrilegious.
No, that isn't sacrilegious.
Who are you to speak for God?
Well, if you can go to the scriptures and show what God is saying, and you reiterate those scriptures, you're speaking for God. I mean, lots of people do that. You don't just make stuff up and say you're speaking for God.
Well, what do you say to people that think you're just a kook?
Well, I'm not a kook. I know I'm right about these things. There's a lot of things I don't speak about because I don't know if I'm right about them or not. But but this I know that I'm right about. You can't be creating babies in a lab and have it all come out with God and nature and morals and government. Government has to just get out of this business of in vitro fertilization. And I don't know. I mean, the Catholic Church, your church, it's against in vitro fertilization. The LDS Church used to be. Most of the conservative Protestant churches, I guess you'd call them, they're against in vitro fertilization. And then Trump is promoting this kind of thing. I don't know. I think he's got rocks in his head. I wish he'd get those orange rocks out of his head. But I don't know what we're in big trouble if we think that we're going to be doing this kind of stuff through government.
Well, pro-life, you have a lot of people that have had children through in vitro.
Oh, I know
and the
that.
reason why this has become an issue is that the Alabama Supreme Court had a very controversial ruling, and the Democrats took advantage of that and now claim that you're not going to be able to have kids. That's a very, very demanding process of in vitro. And, when you go after people with in vitro, you're not gonna win the argument, bro.
Well, I might not be able to win the argument because people are they don't know what's going on, in the eternities in life and all of this kind of thing. Just suppose the government says, okay, we're going to pay you $25,000 to have a baby. And if you have that baby and you don't want it, you can give it up for adoption. There'd be all kinds of babies being born. That's better than...
I don't know about that.
What? Yeah. I mean, this makes no sense. We're going to murder a bunch of our babies before they're born, and then we're going to, through in vitro fertilization, have other people have babies.
Yeah, you're not going to be winning any friends with that one, bro.
No, I'm not. I'm not trying to win friends. I'm trying to protect those little frozen babies. I'm trying to protect the babies that are trying to be born and have a natural life. But people don't care. They want just they want to have their baby their way, and they don't give a darn about anything else. And if the government's going to pay for it, hey, so Trump's saying that the government is going to pay for it, or he's going to force your insurance company to pay for it. I never heard such a weird, stupid kind of a thing by a Republican or anybody that's on supposedly conservative side.
Well, they want to win. They want to win.
Yeah, I know they want to win. So, hey, a chicken in every pot. That's what it is. And, boy, but it's not satisfying.
I mean, that's why you're an unsuccessful politician.
Yeah, I'll lose every race I ever run in, probably.
You're probably the worst politician ever in the state of Idaho.
Yeah, if you want to find out just how ridiculous I am, just go to prolife-idaho.com, and read that, and you'll see, yeah, there's no way this guy could ever win. There isn't. But I don't run to win.
We appreciate your call, and obviously your views on things, whether we agree with them or not. Everybody, the First Amendment is always here on KIDO Talk Radio. Very controversial remarks from pro-life. Coming up next, speaking of controversial, Kent Goldthorpe, ACHD commissioner, will be with us. Apparently, we're going to be paying more in taxes. We'll also talk to Kent about the continuing challenges of transportation in the Treasure Valley. We'll try and blame Kent for something he's not responsible for entertainment purposes only, and talk about the big case, big city, Boise State. It's rolling. Kevin Miller on your side, the right side, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning. Radio, don't forget the free KIDO Talk Radio app. And the balloons are flying over Boise. Spirit of Boise Balloon Classic rolling thanks to our friends at Cap-Ed Credit Union, CBS2, and, of course, our parent company, Town Square Media. Joining us now, the provocative ACHD commissioner, the only local official that has the guts to book himself on a weekly segment on this program, Kent Goldthorpe. Good morning, sir.
Well, good morning. After that last little texting exchange we had, I had my appointment for a prostate exam pop up on my text, so I hope this isn't going to be worse than that.
Well, this is what I love about having you on. Sometimes we have a good segment, sometimes we don't. Sometimes you think that we're done with you when we're not. So it's unpredictable.
Oh, well, thank you. I enjoy that reputation, I guess.
Well, you're quite welcome, Kent. So I hear you raised some taxes, Kent.
I hear you raised some taxes, Kent. I guess you're right. For the first time in years.
Well, do you want to apologize? Do you want to fall on your sword? Can you tell us what's going on?
I'll tell you what's going on, sure, but I don't apologize or fall on my sword hardly ever. Ask my wife. Just kidding. What we did on Wednesday was brought our property taxes that come to ACHD back to the level just under what we were charging in 2021. What we've been charging and getting have been going down for years. Unfortunately, the cost of doing business in this country and this state has not been going down. We're getting so much of a less bang for our buck now that it's almost embarrassing. But just as a note, the property taxes that you pay to ACHD, not to the rest of the taxing entities, but to ACHD, has been going down for decades. As a percentage of your overall home price. It's never even come anywhere close to keeping up with inflation, but that isn't, of course, the objective. And our levy rate has been decreasing drastically over time as well. But that's just a function of our budget divided into the entire assessed value of the county. So, it isn't anything that's magical. It's just based on our budget, which does not go up nearly as fast as assessed values. So the levy rate actually has to go down, and there's nothing that we did to do that, but it is a fact.
Well, we'll see about that, Kent. I don't think we like spending more money.
Nobody likes spending more money. You're talking to a guy who's just about as fixed income as it comes. I'm sure that if people compared my tax return to the average tax return in this valley, mine would be less. I don't like it any more than anybody else. But as you and I have discussed probably many times in the past, I was not elected to lower taxes. I was elected to do a job as far as the roads are concerned in this county. And this year, it was unanimous that we needed to take this increase. Unanimous amongst the commissioners. Now, only 3 commissioners voted for it. The other 2 wanted to sneak in a little pet project that we declined to include in my motion. And so they voted against the whole budget. One commissioner wanted to pay for a project that takes years to even conceptualize, plan, design, bid, and then build. And he wanted to do it all in 1 year. And we said no because it was impossible. And so he voted against the budget. The other one wanted to take the money that would be raised by this tax increase or this revenue increase, whichever you want to call it, and pay for a study to determine whether or not the people in the Boise area should have their impact fees lowered. And I was the maker of the motion, and they look at me and say, would you amend your motion to include that? And I made a one-word reply both times, and that word was no.
Well, this is in-depth team coverage of why we're going to be paying more in taxes thanks to Kent and his crew.
Yeah, and if you want to blame me, go ahead. I took the heat on this one. If you look at our the video of our meeting and when we got into the discussion prior to voting on this, I was the one that controlled that discussion, and I did that for a reason. Because there are people in this valley, and this is an election year, and there are people that would take the fact that our commission president was doing her job on Wednesday and make it look like she orchestrated a tax increase to try to get her out of office. Now, she and I don't agree on a lot of things, but one thing that I don't agree on is when people lie about someone's record to either get them elected or get them booted. And one of the two things, and there's only really two things that a commission president of ACHD is responsible for, is to determine what the agenda for each meeting is going to be and to pass a budget. And I've been president twice, and it was very difficult to get a budget passed because of how many personalities you have to deal with. And so she was just doing her job. Otherwise, we'd
all right. Kent Goldthorpe apologizing for ACHD. We appreciate that, Kent. But on a more serious note, and we talk about this on our website, we write about it on KIDOTalkRadio.com, and some will call it clickbait, some will call it whatever. The idea that we could see the return of a hotter Boise area housing market because once the Fed makes it official to lower rates, our friends in the mortgage business, they're going to be back in business. We're going to have refinance now. Your thoughts on the Fed lowering the rates, and could that bring more people as we continue to see more, even though we've had a slowdown from the ultra hot market we had a couple of years ago, we still see more and more people moving here and more new neighborhoods cropping up?
Well, if you asked any old fart who's been here in the valley and trying to buy and sell homes for most of his life about interest rates, you'll find out that the unrealistically and unbelievably low rates that we've had the last decade are probably as unhealthy as having a 15% interest rate. Dave Petzo would probably agree with back in the day before we got all this quantitative easing and free money and Chinese borrowing and everything else that's inflationary, the average 30-year mortgage rate was 8%.
I think, wait a minute. I think I talked to you about, people moving in. Please don't try to be Dave Petzo. Let's just answer the question. With all due respect.
Oh, yes, sir. Okay. Well, the interest rates go down. People will refinance. More people will move in. Yeah, it'll probably exacerbate the growth problem that we have. Sure. This is still heaven on earth compared to most places to live. So where do we think people are going to want to come? Well, here.
Which brings us to our age-old argument. By the way, you're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio with our great friend Kent Goldthorpe. This is how, I'm sorry, I show my affection by being pugnacious with the provocative Mr. Goldthorpe, Commissioner Goldthorpe. But, and I know you hear this question all the time. You and I have talked about this on and off the air. Everybody asks this. Is there any way to stop this thing from happening? I mean, the growth, and you're going to yell at me and go, well, live closer to Boise. I don't want to live closer to Boise, but you just see this stuff going up. And now, as Tea Party Bob and I warned about 10 years ago, the high-density housing is kicking in as well.
Well, okay, the high-density housing actually, I haven't lived in apartments for decades, but I have lived in apartments before, and it was no fun as far as I'm concerned. But the high-density housing does fill one particular need, and that is to provide housing in areas that you don't have to build out the road infrastructure. So from that standpoint, and my opinion, is it helps take the pressure off of me, because where you see most of these apartments going up, you can't expand the roads.
But it just adds more traffic to the roads.
Sure it does, but it'll add more traffic in a concentrated area rather than to force more roads to be built to service, new developments or planned communities or whatever out in the middle of the desert. Which is more expensive. I can tell you which is more expensive.
But we're seeing that everywhere. We're seeing high-density housing in Eagle and Star, and they're not very affordable either. I mean, I understand where, like in Meridian, you have these, the 10-mile complex with Shields and everything else, and you have these apartments. Okay, you could argue, okay, that's great. They're right next to the highway. However, on the other hand, and again, I'm not bagging on people. We all have to have places to live, but it goes back to the idea was if we could go back 20 years or 30 years to somehow correctly manage it. If you could get back and folks, get the visuals ready, the Kent Goldthorpe hot tub time machine, and go back 30 years ago, could this traffic gridlock, which is still a joke compared to Denver and LA, but still frustrating, have been alleviated or avoided?
No, not at all. The thing that would have had to have happened for that kind of planning and execution to have happened that much earlier in time would have been an astronomical increase in your property taxes, and nobody would have put up with that. We're not like Las Vegas, which is one of the only places in the United States that was ahead of the curve in terms of infrastructure and development. They've got an unlimited supply of money from the gambling industry. We don't.
Kent, let's move on to some other topics. After Labor Day, it is go time until election time for politics. We won't talk about the presidential race unless you want to jump into this, but what are you hearing on the streets about the ranked choice voting? I believe there's going to be a flood of ads both online and on radio and everywhere else going, we need the jungle primary. By the way, isn't that, I don't know if you can even say jungle primary anymore. However, this is the seminal issue, or is it, coming up in November?
It is the number one issue, and you're hearing that from someone who's extremely interested in who constitutes the ACHD commission beginning in January, and there's 3 seats up for grabs. But I'm more interested in the ranked choice voting because it means more to me not to see the one person, one vote concept destroyed by ranked choice voting than it does to sit next to people who I'm ideologically more adept to on Wednesday nights. I hate ranked choice voting.
And yet, it made the ballot. It seems to be unpopular with everybody. And yet here we have it.
Raul Labrador, he explains it very succinctly. I think most of the people that signed that stinking thing were lied to. I was asked to sign it, and I was lied to several times, and I just laughed at them. I said, you don't even know what you're asking. And they looked at me like I was an idiot.
Well, when you say, we would never look at you as if you were an idiot. However, how did they lie to you?
They said it was only going to open the primary, period, end of story. Something I don't mind either, but that's not what it does. It makes it so your choice is eliminated if that person doesn't get voted in on the first round. And someone who I absolutely would not want to be in office might easily win under ranked choice voting.
Kent Goldthorpe joining us. Let's talk about the major big political story of the week that really wasn't covered effectively by sadly, the local media. It was covered by the national media, and that is the executive order signed by Governor Little protecting girls and girls' sports and making sure that biological males will not be competing against biological females in Idaho. The first state to do this, the executive order following the first law, co-sponsored, championed by Representative Barbara Earhart. Riley Gaines in town. This was a big, huge move. Your thoughts, Kent?
That was an important thing for the governor to have signed, and I object to anybody that tells the rest of us that he did it for holding his finger up in the air to determine which way the wind went. That was absolutely the right thing to do, and I congratulate him for doing it for all the reasons that you and I and other people describe about men beating up women, or men running faster than women, or men swimming faster than women. It's all true. Men are different than women, and we should not have to allow women to put up with that garbage.
We will see a good move by Governor Little, though.
Well, absolutely, but it was the right thing to do.
Yeah. Like I said, it really would quell the critics of whether or not they believe he's a true conservative.
Oh, heck no. None. The people that like to shoot shotguns, loads of vitriol at Governor Little won't stop for anything. But I thank him for this great example.
Yeah, Riley Gaines in town. That was pretty big.
A wonderful woman. I listened to her on the radio many times, and she articulates everything that needs to be articulated in this particular issue perfectly.
Kent, anything else we missed that you would like to add?
Oh, I was kind of laughing at your interview with Pro-Life about, God's opinion about in vitro fertilization. I used to own an embryo transplant clinic, and it wasn't for humans, it was for cattle. And that means absolutely nothing except for...
Let's not get too graphic, Kent.
I won't. But I don't think God has any kind of opinion whatsoever on whether or not in vitro fertilization is okay. I think that's a technological advance that dovetails really well into one of the first pieces of advice that God gave anyone on earth, which was to multiply and replenish the earth, period.
That'll have to be the last word. Kent Goldthorpe, ACHD Commissioner. We appreciate you, sir.
Hey, thanks. See you again.
We will catch Kent next week. Conversations with Kent brought to you by Kevin Miller. Let's go to David DeHaas, who joins us now. He's getting fired up for his award-winning show Sundays at 9 on KIDO Talk Radio.
Paid for by Living Waters Wellness Center.
David DeHaas, good morning.
Top of the morning to you, Kevin.
It's always a challenge with you. You come in with the fire and the energy.
Hey, have you ever went to a restaurant and was told to order a particular meal that was supposed to be so good, you just got to have it, only to bite into it, and it just didn't meet your expectations? Later, you felt nausea, maybe a little gassy, maybe you felt like you wanted to throw up. That's how I felt watching the Kamala Harris interview last night. Now, Living Waters, I can't change how you feel about any of the political candidates, but we can help your digestive issues, constipation, gas, bloating, parasites, brain fog, all can be helped with cleansing with colon hydrotherapy. You probably want to leave that.
I don't know where you
down, don't you?
Yeah, I'm telling you, I don't know if you would replay the interview while you're getting the colon hydrotherapy, but whatever cleans you out.
Yes, it cleans you out. That's really important. You guys just talking about IVF, and years ago we had some ladies come here and they were told they couldn't ever have kids. And so they adopted kids and did a 10-day cleanse. And my wife says, you might just be aware you could probably get pregnant. Oh, no, that's never going to happen with me. Well, sure enough, these moms who had came to us, they had babies on their own after cleaning out and getting the toxins out of their body. The body is set up. God created an amazing body for us, and we just got to get rid of those toxins and those chemicals. And good things happen when you do that. You get well, you get better, and you can have babies.
David DeHaas, what's coming up Sunday at 9?
Sunday at 9. Oh, this week we're going to talk about the screen addiction on the phones. You got that? We're going to talk about some of those studies. We're going to talk about heavy metals in your chocolate. Your wonderful chocolate. If you're eating chocolate, you got to be careful where you're getting it from when we're talking about that. And, of course, as always, we got to clean out those heavy metals. But let's not put heavy metals in via very bad products like some of these chocolate products that are out there. So we're talking about that. Sunday at 9. LivingWatersCleanse.com is where they can go before then. 378-9911, 208-378-9911. They should get that. That's the only tattoo you can have, Kevin, is our number.
Thank you, David. We appreciate that.
Paid for by Living Waters Wellness Center.
Yeah, got to be tough. David doesn't take a lot of breaths. And remember, the comments, views, and opinions are those not of KIDO Talk Radio, its sponsors, or your host. Again, that was a paid interview by our great friend, David DeHaas. We appreciate his passion to bring health, fitness, and vitality to everyone. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio.
Hey, good morning, Kevin. Yeah, no disrespect to Kent Goldthorpe. He's a good guy. But, when you talked about the density housing issues, and the roadways, it always comes back to the taxpayer. Then does the taxpayer want to raise taxes to build these roads? It's really, to me, I'm thinking about all the Corey Bartons, all the builders in this town that are just making bank and growing like it's going out of style. They're just making money a lot, and the developers are just making money. Why are we not charging the impact fees to them? Where is the planning going on that says, if we're going to build a high density area, then why don't we charge them, the developers, and make it a little more costly on the impact fees for them? Why does it always got to fall back on the taxpayer? I don't understand that. And it's just amazing to me, that density housing is just causing traffic problems everywhere. And then we look for taxpayers and government to bail us out. And it's like when actually it comes down to planning and stop, put a little more difficulty on building. I know that it brings in income by having more people here, but it seems that the income that's coming in from this is going to one-sided. The developers, they're just making bank. And I just think I don't think it's fair to sit there and put it back on the taxpayers for their development and what they do. There's ways around this, and building these roads. I was involved in building 10 Mile and Franklin, and when it was nothing but farm fields, and I saw the development going to happen. And at that time, they could have easily made a change or put a stop to it, but they didn't. They knew dang well what was going on. The developers making banks, and the taxpayers are paying for it, and the driving. And that's just the way I see it, being involved.
Boy, what an enormous project! 10 Mile. Everybody thinks that exit was there, forever. It hasn't been, and just now you think of the enormity with Shields and everything else in there. It's just amazing.
Exactly. When I was involved in Franklin, building that in Black Cat, it was, and in all that area, it was nothing but farms and nothing but, fields. There was very little density of housing there. So they knew in hindsight, they knew what was going to happen. So they didn't build the road and the infrastructure to carry the weight of the high density housing, but they let it go anyway. And it's just amazing to me, like I said, the people that bought up the farmland for $1 and turned around and made bank off it, and that's who's getting the money. It's the developers. I don't see some of these developers in town, going broke. And they're just buying up land because they are in on the end. You buy it for $1, you sell it for 10, and that's
let's go back to the city of Boise. It was McLean's developers against Masterson's developers, really.
Right. And then, you go way back to, the Bodo thing back when, Boise, they decided to build the downtown. Well, what about the infrastructure there? They decided to build up the downtown area without a plan of a road, building a wagon wheel type road that would go around the city. They didn't think about that. They just built that. And then when they built the mall off of Ash, when they built the mall there, they built it right in Franklin, and that was a disaster there for traffic-wise. It's just, if you can get the land cheap and make money off it, that's what they're doing. And we need to charge the impact fees to those that are making money off it. And I'm not, I like development. I'm not saying we have to, kill them, financially. I'm just saying we need to make it fair. We just need to make it fair. Don't put the tax back on the public. Hold the developers a little bit responsible for that, So, but that's just my 2 cents.
Well, the developers don't like to be held responsible.
Oh no! It's all about buying up the land, and then you get more money, and you buy up land around lakes and stuff. I just don't want to get on that ramp, but we're selling out Idaho is what's happening, and we're selling out the big money, and that's what's going on. But anyways, Kevin, love your show. I just wanted to put my 2 cents in on that. I saw it happening back when, and I was involved in a little bit of that, so I kind of know what was going on. So. But God bless your show,
we appreciate your rebuttal to Kent.
Okay, thanks.
Phone number is here, 580-5436-580-KIDO. We forgot to ask Kent about Boise State and Big City Coffee. We just got carried away with impact fees. We'll get to that next. KIDO Talk Radio. Speaking of Kent Goldthorpe and traffic, KIDO Talk Radio traffic. You're right. We haven't really played a lot of the Kamala clips. If you would like to comment on that, 580-5436-580-KIDO. When you're looking at just your reaction to Kamala and everything else, we'll get to that in a minute. Obviously, that is a topic we'll take till 10. Another issue, by the way, we'll be off on Labor Day. It'll be Fox News Radio, lovely Fox News Radio. Another great reason why people are leaving California, and no, we're not talking about the housing subsidy for illegals, but this is getting crazy. And why don't we do this? I forgot to push the button. Thank you for reminding me, Sweet William. Okay, here is the tone. Go.
To board a school bus picking up elementary students in Southern California on Wednesday. This happened in Jamul, California, right near the U.S.-Mexico border. Just 24 hours before, a smaller group of suspected migrants tried to get on another school bus in the same district. Parents, of course, on high alert. Parents who were at the stop made sure the students got onto the bus safely and that no others boarded. The school district superintendent saying in a letter to parents that all bus drivers will be skipping over the stops where migrants are nearby. Quote, please stay vigilant, and if the bus drives by, please follow the bus to pick up your child at the next stop.
580-5436-580-KIDO. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. What do you make of that? That is the state of Colorado, or California. Aren't they all the same? Speaking of not all the same.
To my desk, and I would sign it.
Just one other question about something that you said in 2019 when you first ran. There was a debate. You raised your hand when asked whether or not the border should be decriminalized. Do you still believe that?
I believe there should be consequence. We have laws that have to be followed and enforced that address and deal with people who cross our border illegally, and there should be consequence. And let's be clear, in this race, I'm the only person who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations who traffic in guns, drugs, and human beings. I'm the only person in this race who actually served a border state as Attorney General to enforce our laws, and I would enforce our laws as president going forward. I recognize the problem.
Generally speaking, how should voters look at some of the changes that you've...
Right, you believe that? The most porous border, the border czar, is now a tough prosecutor. And all of a sudden we're going to believe her with a straight face. By the way, you're not going to hear this anywhere else. Kamala's a little worried about her height.
Meanwhile, why did I think you were much taller? I recently learned you're only 5'2". Is that true?
That is absolutely incorrect.
Okay.
I am 5'4" and a quarter.
Okay, and I'm 5'3".
5'4" and a half, and with heels, which I always wear, I'm 5'7" and a half. Thank you very much.
Okay, Wikipedia, you're wrong, and we need to
totally
correct
wrong.
that.
I've said this to my team, like, what? I don't know where it came from. I was 5'2" when I was 12.
They say I'm 5'1" on my Wikipedia page.
How tall are you?
5'3" and 3/4.
Right?
and shrinking.
It's like literally, they just want to just make us smaller in every way.
I know,
we
but
are.
I was excited because I'm short, and I was like, oh, Kamala is
No,
short
I
like
am
me.
not. I really am not. Like, they're just trying to take
Okay.
2.5 inches off my,
We stand corrected.
wing. Yes, and we
We'll make
stand.
sure. Yes. Yes.
There we have it. It's not about the transnational gangs. It's not about the high cost of gas. It's not about the poor air quality in our area. It's not about the Chinese or the Iranians or the Russians or Hamas and Hezbollah. She doesn't like to be short. If you've seen the video, and everyone from Liberal Steve to Pete Mountain Home have seen the video of her with Walz, Minnesota Walz, he towers over her. Now, as a man, allegedly, who resembles a gnome half the time, never really thought of myself as a member of the Seven Dwarfs, but I am, both in physique and in facial features, I can understand the plight of the vertically challenged people. The vertically challenged people like the other people. But get over yourself, lady. So now we're going to have somebody. And by their way, there is a bias against short people. Now we're going to have somebody who cannot handle the low post. I was talking to a member of the Peterson family. They have those great ads about Twitter and everything else. And he's a tall guy, and he came in to record his radio ads. And very nice gentleman. And I said, hey, man, I bet you never have a problem in the low post. Low post meaning going into basketball and putting a basketball in because you're tall. And that's amazing to me that here we have the insight into the hubris of the vice president. Imagine, remember how people talked about Donald Trump's small hands or size and, oh, Barry Obama, you're so cute with the double entendres. You're better than that, Mr. Former President. Can you imagine Donald Trump saying, well, I'm really, and Trump is what, 6'1", 6'2", whatever. I'm really, 5'7" and 3/4", but my staff says I'm 5'4". You're the president. You're applying to be the president of the free world. But I will tell you, as someone who is in the audio business, thankfully, not the physical business, the cosmetically appealing business of television or video or what have you, we still have that mask in radio, thankfully. But I'm sitting there going, she looks small next to Walz. Maybe go with diminutive Josh Shapiro. Maybe have Walz on a separate screen. And the conservative commentators are right, from Clay and Buck to Lars to Sean. Bottom line here is she needed that guy as her relief valve. She needed the safety blanket of Tim Walz. By the way, again, and we're going to be provocative, so let me apologize in advance. You have the DEI vice president and you have the vice president nominee that's white privilege. I was talking to a liberal friend of mine who we disagree on everything except our love for radio. And I said, hey, man, what's up with the privilege? That guy shouldn't be there. He should be outing himself, and he should be genuflecting at the knees of the major media and saying, I'm sorry for being white privilege. I know that grammatically doesn't make sense, but neither does Tim Walz. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. One more time. We're going to get to that in a minute. However, many people have called Donald Trump racist. Many people have talked about race. Last night, the vice president was asked about, are you black? Look, I don't think that anybody cares if you're black, if you're white. All they care about is solving your problems. By the way, again, I'm a huge fan of people that have created something out of nothing. These digital schmigital marketing people, from our friend Nathan Barry, who has always been very nice to us, to the folks at, ClickFunnels, who we've reached out to them. They never return our calls. To the folks at in Star that do the create your own website to revenue things, to people that teach you how to do skills. I admire them because they really are the new creators in our society today. And I think they do wonderful work. And, on one hand, you balance that the digital, one of the things trending is whether or not, people are care about your race. They don't care about your race. The digital people, and really the people in sales, and because I'm a radio guy, radio sales, that support this to give me the opportunity. If not, I would be, working at Carl's Jr. at the drive-thru, and I'd go, hello there, would you like a number one? By the way, that has to be a stressful job because everybody is mad. Everybody wants their cholesterol fix. Everybody wants their sodium. Maybe I'm not talking about you, but I'm talking about me. And whether in radio sales or digital sales, the number one lesson is it's not about you. It's not about you. And that's what she doesn't get. I think with Walz, when he's not lying about his record, he gets that. But she doesn't. Let me play for you a clip from our friends at MSNBC that were breaking down the race of the issue because they can't talk to her about real life issues because she doesn't know them or she lies.
And if you are a Republican, Democrat, Independent, does the way that you identify racially impact your politics or specifically how you plan to vote this election?
Absolutely.
How so?
I'm not going to lend my support behind someone who does not support people who look like me.
What is that about? By the way, I think they're all minority folks. Could you imagine pasty, pudgy, pugnacious, receding hairline Kevin Miller saying that? Oh, boy, let's brand him a racist. And this is sad. Look, we're better than this. And I know a lot of people don't like to talk about it because it's uncomfortable, but are you kidding me? You're judging people by what you look like, not their character?
He sees me as who I am.
Former President Donald Trump.
Yes.
And what about the rest of you?
I just don't think that Kamala Harris has anything vested in the air finger quote black or Hispanic experience in so much as it would be identified by anybody that lives in those communities.
You're saying you don't think that she can help black or brown people?
No, I mean, going to Howard don't make you black.
A conversation that quickly turned to this moment in a July interview at the National Association of Black Journalists.
I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
What did you think when you heard those comments?
Highly offensive. I mean, I think probably every multiracial, mixed race, biracial person has had the experience of someone else telling them that they are not something enough. I think it's kind of triggering, right?
I think it is impossible to be biracial in America. And I think that it requires that you're covering all bases at all times. And it requires constant recognition of both identities. And I think when Donald Trump says stuff like,
what is this guy talking about?
That about Kamala Harris and implies that she's like picking a race for political advantage, it's tapping into an incredibly familiar sentiment that I think everyone on this panel can understand.
Marie and Adul, as Trump supporters, when you heard that comment, as mixed people, how did it register with you?
Well, my first thought was, that wasn't very well thought out. At the same time, though, when I heard it, I didn't hear it as an attack on blacks or Indians. I heard it more so of him commenting towards identity politics and the appeal that some take to play up one side of their race over the other.
Adul, I see you nodding your head.
I agreed with him. I didn't know she identified as black because everything I saw was first South Asian, first Indian. There's none of that identified as black.
Regardless of her parents, I mean, she was born in this country, and she identifies as a black person in this country in an American way, in a uniquely American context.
I've never heard her identify herself as a black woman.
She said multiple times she's a black woman.
Where did we go before? I mean, I feel kind of left out. You feel kind of left out? Hey, dude, what are you? I'm morbidly obese. Hey, dude, who are you? The guy 2 weeks ago called me a fat slob. Okay. Hey, dude, who are you? I'm a quarter this person, a quarter that person, a little quarter pounder with cheese, a little Whopper, a little Domino's triple crusted. These people have a lot on their minds, apparently. And look, I'm sure these issues are very important to them. The rest of us are just trying to figure out how to pay the mortgage. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio.
I am 5'4" and a quarter.
Okay, and I'm
Sometimes
5'3"
5'4" and a half, and with heels, which I always wear, I'm 5'7" and a half. Thank you very much.
Okay, Wikipedia, you're wrong, and we need to
Totally
correct
wrong.
that.
I've said this to my team. Like, what? I don't know where it came from. I was 5'2" when I was 12.
They say I'm 5'1" on my Wikipedia page.
How tall are you?
5'3" and 3/4.
Right?
And shrinking.
It's like literally, they just want to make us smaller in every way.
I know,
we
but
are.
I was excited because I'm short, and I was like, oh, Kamala is
No,
short
I
like
am
me.
not. I really am not.
Okay.
I'm just trying to take 2.5 inches off my,
We stand corrected.
wing. Yes, and we
We'll make
stand.
sure. Yes.
Brian in Nampa, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Okay, Kevin, I'm 6'3", just shy of that. I've shrunk a little bit. And the doctor has put me on some medication that's gotten my weight up. I'm at 240. So she's still short. Just saying. And Kevin, before we get started too much, Timmy didn't take my offer up. He didn't come to Idaho. He didn't want to do clays. He didn't want to do CQB with assault weapons or pistols or shotguns. He didn't want to do long range with rifles. So I'm going to offer something else. We can go down to the axe throwing shop and throw axes or knives, or we can still go out to the range and pull out the old 6-shooters and use the quicker draw, on like those metal tingers that the quick shooters do. If he's not comfortable with advanced weapons, we can, do some old school stuff. And if he doesn't like that, we can go to the archery range. He's still invited. I haven't heard anything. Have you?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, so the offer's still there. I know some of the Democrats aren't comfortable with advanced weaponry, so I'm willing to downgrade and do old school stuff because I'm multi-talented in all those arenas, hatchets, whatever. And we can still do it, bro, if you're not comfortable with the advanced stuff. Hey, Kevin, did you hear that a federal judge said that the NFA is unconstitutional? For all of you that don't know what that means it's unconstitutional not to allow people to have machine guns, short-barreled rifles, short-barreled shotguns, or suppressors. Now, it only applied to that particular individual, but we shall see if the Supremes decide to take on that case and give all Americans their rights to small arms. I thought that was rather interesting this last week. That one, I'm sure Kamala's freaking out about. Hey, Kevin, do you think you would like a machine gun if, I don't know, a whole bunch of illegals tried to storm your kid's school bus and kidnap them and, take them over the border and rape them? You think a machine gun would be a good use then? Just,
machine gun, Gatling gun, any type of gun. I'm with you.
Yeah. Hey, Kevin, I've kind of been recovering and not doing very well, but I'm really sick of this race thing. I don't give a hoot about your labels, Democrats. Don't. We had the Klan here in Idaho, Kevin. They used to march up and down Boise. We protected their right, their First Amendment right to say that. We didn't agree with it. We hated them for it, but we allowed them to do it. And this is exactly why we allow people like Kamala to say stuff like this that we know is untrue, but real Americans don't give a crap about race. I hate to break it to any of you racist folks out there. I don't care if you're white, black, Hispanic, whatever you want to call yourself, purple, orange, pinky, whatever. I don't care. We don't care. We're sick of it. You know what we care about? The grocery bill. My kids can't buy houses. They're too damn expensive.
36580 KIDO. Out to our friend Steve in Hayden, Idaho, with the very latest from North Idaho. The North Idaho Report brought to you by Kevin Miller. Hello, Steve.
Hey, Kevin. How are you? Hey,
still with you.
Oh, good. Not much to report from up here other than just beautiful fall weather already starting. So we've got all the photographers in town, taking pictures of the osprey, grabbing the salmon, that kind of stuff. So great time to be in North Idaho.
So you say.
Yeah. So I have to agree with pro-life this morning. I do most times anyway, but it seems like every time we turn on the TV, either Trump or Harris are offering to pay for something at, with taxpayer money that it's just irritating. Harris wants to Biden and Harris want to buy the student votes with paying off all their tuition. They want to pay for people's houses, down payments, you name it. And then now Trump is jumping in with paying for IVF. And I guess my question is where does it end? I mean, taxpayers can't pay for everything, and we have no business paying for someone's medical treatments in the first place. I don't think we should be paying for health care for anybody. I don't believe it's a human right. I believe you can work hard and make money and pay for your own insurance and pay for your own doctor's visits. But it's just, we have $35 trillion in debt in this country, and every time you turn on the TV, Trump or Harris are trying to buy votes with some other silly proposal that's probably never going to happen. But, I guess my question is, where does it end? I mean, maybe I can get the government to pay for my gym membership, or maybe I can get them I'm on a carnivore diet right now. Maybe they can pay for my ribeyes because I'm doing that for medical reasons. My wife's got an autoimmune disease. Why isn't the government paying for her, her special dietary requirements to help her fight her autoimmune? So I guess that's my rant for today. I mean, obviously Trump is better than Harris, but this whole campaign has just devolved into worrying about what height she is or what nationality what race she is. Whatever happened, just sticking to the issues and talking about things that actually matter to the average person.
Well, I think that we have gotten carried away with the politics of fiscal destruction. And, we talk about the great stock market. What happens if all of a sudden, to quote the great Reverend Wright, the chickens come home to roost? And we get a 20% tax increase to pay for our national debt and deficit. The deficit financing, I mean, it all goes back to our friend Congressman Fulcher when he said, this is how bad the Democrats are, that the Republicans wanted to go back to government spending, pre-COVID government spending, which was still out of hand. The Democrats didn't even want to do that. So we're still spending as if we're in COVID, which, again, the free money and this, that, and the other, and it's just stupid. And everybody continue. If you try to rein in government responsibly, they vilify you. And there is no bipartisanship. There is no cooperation. And, Dave Petzo and I used to get into this for years and years and years about the debt. And thank goodness we have Mike Crapo. He's like the lonely voice in the woods in the Senate. But the spending is just stupid and out of control. And like I said, there are a lot of people that are into the stock market, and you have to wonder, because nobody criticizes the stock market except those that are not invested in it, which would be me, and say, what happens if all of a sudden, somebody calls in the note? What happens if all of a sudden, like it happens in our lives? There are people that, Steve, that listen, that have had to declare bankruptcy or have had to, do without, have had to sell their homes or prized possessions because they got in over their heads, sometimes because of medical expenses. And the people are held accountable. Look at with college student loans. Unforgivable. And yet here we have 5'2", 5'4", 5'1", Kamala running around worried about the size of her heels. And with all due respect to the Republicans, the same thing. The Republicans pulled a bait and switch when they said, and it was Paul Ryan and Boehner and McConnell, when they told Trump, don't go for the infrastructure. We are going to get rid of Obamacare. I can remember, and we when he was in Congress, a founding member of the Freedom Caucus, Raul Labrador, they were going to get Obamacare, and they didn't, because nobody wants to be called a bad name.
Well, yeah, that was great synopsis. And, running up, $1.5 trillion in debt every year, at least, in deficit spending. my wife and I both turned 60 this summer. My wife in a couple weeks, and we worked really hard. We're debt free because we haven't run up debt. We've lived within our means. We've paid things off, and I'm really worried that here in my looming retirement, one, there won't be Social Security, which I'm not 100% reliant on, but it would be nice to get something I've paid into for over 40 years. And also, I'm afraid that they're going to come after our wealth because, how dare you have wealth when other people are struggling? It doesn't matter how you accumulated that wealth through being fiscally responsible and actually saving. But I can see a day when, it comes down to, hey, you have too much. We're just going to start confiscating. And I think that's a real threat, the way we're spending. And like you said, when the chickens come home to roost, they're going to go after people's money one way or the other.
Well, I'm sorry, Steve. I need you to racially identify. Are you a white guy?
Last I checked.
Well, you never know. You might have some other stuff in there. I mean, that might help you out, but I'm sorry, sir. You're going to have to atone for your sins of privilege. So, and doesn't this sound like the Gulag, the Soviet Union? We're going to take what you have, like they did during the Bolshevik Revolution.
Exactly. Yeah, and I'm like I said, I think it's a real threat. I think it's a real possibility. And then my other conspiracy theory for the day is I think their October surprise, if Kamala's numbers don't come up, I think they're going to figure out a way to kill off Joe Biden so that they can have a big drama and install her as president. And that'll be the October surprise, is that, our country's in crisis and Kamala's our president now, and we've got to keep her in there because of this these difficult times. What do you think of that?
Well, I think that Joe, there's a still good possibility that if Joe misbehaves or if it gets bad, they're going to pull the 25th on him. I believe the unverified Seymour Hersh story that Obama gave him a call and said, hey, Joe, we're going to 25th Amendment you're out. Because if you have the money, if you have the apparatus, why do you give that up if you're Joe Biden, unless there's a threat that they're going to get you? And then his beloved vice president that called him a racist segregationist, she flipped, she turned traitor and got him. That's how I see it.
Well, I think that's a big possibility, but I think, going with a big, state funeral, laying in state in the rotunda and Kamala being there tearful with her hand on the coffin over the flag. And,
hold on. Now, I don't need a call from the Secret Service, so I totally disagree with you on that, bro.
Okay. Well, I'm not saying I'm going to do it, but I wouldn't.
Right, but you're saying, hold on, you're saying hypothetically, because, I'm not joking. Bro, we've had like FBI agents interview people that have called into this program. They've been hauled in. So that's one thing and again, I'm not lecturing you. I say this with the utmost respect. This is a talk show. You're expressing a hypothetical opinion.
Yes, sir. Very hypothetical.
Yeah. And like I say, I'm not trying to get cute. I'm just saying opinions are certainly welcome here, and we appreciate you. Thank you, Steve. We'll get you out on that one. Phone number's here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Again, we are very cognizant that this station is licensed by the Federal Communications Commission. We do our very best to uphold those standards over 100 years of serving Idaho here on KIDO Talk Radio. Let me tell you about this weekend. It's Labor Day weekend. We have a lot of people that are working. They're working for you. It's Labor Day weekend at our friends at the dog-loving Treasure Valley Subaru. They're having a Labrador weekend sale, which means they're going to bring you can bring your dogs and you can hang out there and celebrate. They actually have a dog park there. They have a putting green. I know, it's a fun place to hang out. So if you're looking for a car, new or used, you can go into Treasure Valley Subaru and you can go on the putting green. You can play with your dog. You can actually drive a car on their off-road course. They actually have one. And if you're thinking about a new Subaru, how about this? Doesn't get any lower than this. 0% interest rates, 72 months. You want to buy used CapEd Credit Union, they will lower your interest rate by 1% from your approved rate. Only at Treasure Valley Subaru this weekend, 0% for 72 months on new Subarus, 1% rate reduction on all pre-owned. I do want to thank Rob for partnering with so many nonprofit charities. Recently, Camp Rainbow Gold, getting them a vehicle. Our friends at the Boise Rescue Mission, the Idaho Humane Society. So many things that people can do. And Rob, Juan, Jake, all those folks at Treasure Valley Subaru, they choose to help our local community. And they choose this program to partner with them. So if you're thinking about buying a Subaru, a pre-owned car, your dollar goes to serve the locals at Treasure Valley Subaru. And by the way, 0% for 72 months. That's really pretty good. Treasure Valley Subaru at the Idaho Center Pre-Owned Superstore, together on one giant lot at the Idaho Center Auto Mall and at TreasureValleySubaru.com. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Have when you listen to this program, but we appreciate Steve, giving his thoughts. By the way, we'll get your reactions more to the vice president. Phone number's here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Her big interview, of course, now we're getting ready for the big debate. We are still looking for a place to hold our debate watch party. If you have a business that would like to partner with us, please send me an email. It's got to be a big place that serves food and fun and, again, isn't afraid to be conservative.
President Harris, you were a very staunch defender of President Biden's capacity.
What's that, Sweet William? Pot it up? Okay, we'll pot it up. Thank you very much. Nobody can hear it.
To serve another 4 years. Right after the debate, you insisted that President Biden is extraordinarily strong. Given where we are now, do you have any regrets about what you told the American people?
No, not at all. Not at all. I have served with President Biden for almost 4 years now, and I'll tell you, it's one of the greatest honors of my career, truly. He cares so deeply about the American people. He is so smart and loyal to the American people. And I have spent hours upon hours with him, be it in the Oval Office or the Situation Room. He has the intelligence, the commitment, and the judgment and disposition that I think the American people rightly deserve in their president.
There we have a serious moment with the vice president from last night. On a not so serious moment, and I love, again, Sweet William in the research department, here is what she's really worried about.
Why did I think you were much taller? I recently learned you're only 5'2". Is that true?
That is absolutely incorrect.
Okay.
I am 5'4" and a quarter.
Okay, and I'm
Sometimes
5'3".
5'4" and a half, and with heels, which I always wear, I'm 5'7" and a half. Thank you very much.
Okay, Wikipedia, you're wrong, and we need to
Totally
correct
wrong.
that.
I've said this to my team, like, what? I don't know where it came from. I was 5'2" when I was 12.
They say I'm 5'1" on my Wikipedia page.
How tall are you?
5'3" and 3/4.
Right?
And shrinking.
It's like literally, they just want to make us smaller in every way.
I know,
we
but
are.
I was excited because I'm short, and I was like, oh, Kamala's short
No, I
like
am
me.
not. I really am not.
Okay.
They're just trying to take
Okay.
2.5 inches off my,
We stand corrected.
thing. Yes, and we
We'll make
stand.
sure.
And-
Yes, yes.
By the way, she was asked the B question.
I was a little bit surprised. People might be surprised to hear that you have never interacted with him, met him face to face. That's going to change soon. But what I want to ask you about is what he said last month. He suggested that you happened to turn black recently for political purposes, questioning a core part of your identity.
Yeah. Same old tired playbook. Next question, please.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay. Let's talk about some foreign policy issues that would be.
Well, there we have it. Is that it? Can we go back to how tall you really are? We actually have a tape measure here, Madam Vice President. We have a tape measure, and we would want to take a look at this and really want to see how tall you are because, quite frankly, let's face it, at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, the world's at war. The world is at war. Israel, Hamas, Hezbollah, Ukraine, Russia. By the way, now Ukraine wants offensive missiles because, Greg Ferrara, Putin's in trouble. Let's not forget about our friends, the Chinese. And oh, by the way, here is our vice president talking about her race or ethnicity. Please correct me if I'm wrong. And again, we don't have a lot of civil rights interaction here in Idaho. We don't. We welcome that. We've done that before for years and years and years. But, we go back to the message of Dr. King. And the message of Dr. King was we're not going to identify by race, we're going to identify by character. And yet today it's gotten to such a point, I'm just confused. I identify through food. I'm a Whopper. I'm a Whopper. Well, what else are you? I'm a Whopper. Well, you can't be just a Whopper, Kevin Miller. Yeah, I'm a Whopper. But it's a distraction. And there are too many important things going on in where we're living today to be caught up in it. But you have a lot of people. Some might say pampered. Some might say delusional. Some might say just focus on other things. Maybe it's a generational thing. But they're caught up in this stuff. You know, are you white? Are you black? We'll get back to the vice president in a minute. But first, here is Donald Trump addressing the latest national controversy involving him.
I was asked to go there by people who lost their child. They asked me whether or not I would stand for a picture at the grave of their loved one who should not have died.
The Army says a cemetery employee was, quote, abruptly pushed aside when they tried to enforce Defense Department regulations, which, quote, clearly prohibit political activities on cemetery grounds. The Trump campaign later posting video of the visit.
On that hallowed ground, should they have put out
I don't
the
know what the
images
rules
of
and
those?
regulations are. I don't know who did it.
It was your campaign's TikTok, though, that put out the
I
video.
really don't know anything about it. All I do is I stood there and I said, if you'd like to have a picture, we can have a picture.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything to go after Donald Trump. It will be amazing if he wins. It will be amazing if he wins. At 580-5436, 580-KIDO, has there anybody been more unqualified than the current vice president? Maybe the sitting president?
Kelly Barnett invited the former president to Arlington. Her son, Marine Staff Sergeant Taylor Hoover, died at Abbey Gate.
What would you say to people who may be pro-Trump, anti-Trump, whatever their politics might be, who just feel like that's not a place for politicians or for politics?
I would have to say, are you in my shoes? I invited him. My son was murdered under the Biden-Harris administration.
Have you been in my shoes? Have you been in my shoes? By the way, thank you for the person that called in to remind us, are we still talking about Big City Coffee versus Boise State? We'll do that next. Don't forget our friends at Beacon Plumbing. Stop freaking, call Beacon. Please tell them Kevin Miller sent you. Kevin Miller on Idaho's talk station, KIDO Talk Radio. Cases legally going on in the state of Idaho has to be Boise State University versus Big City Coffee. If you're new to the area, this is an area that has been talked about for quite some time. It was big news at the time. And you take a look at, freedom of speech, which we have here currently on Idaho's oldest radio station, Idaho's first radio station. But how limiting freedom of speech can be. We'll go from the Idaho Statesman. They provide the facts for this story with Kevin Miller. Angelo Palmero is the author. By the way, with all due respect, what makes a writer really great is they are such introverts, and I see that in this building all the time because the Statesman people come in and, dude, they don't look at you, they don't make eye contact, they just, and it's a gift, I guess, because to be that observant, to write things down, whether you agree with them or not, they just, they don't talk. I guess they save all their skills for the ink. But a Boise coffee shop owner's lawsuit against Boise State has finally made it to a trial in Ada County courtroom. By the way, this happened over 3 years ago. Big City Coffee owner Sarah Fenley sued Boise State for $10 million after her campus shop closed only a month after opening. It was right next to the university library. The case revolves around a contentious meeting between Fenley and administrators in 2020 that ultimately ended the Big City Coffee shuttering its campus location just 42 days in business. By the way, Boise State is a public university. And I know I should be like everybody else. Don't talk about controversy. Just talk about national issues, because locally you get too close and you'll get squashed. And on one hand, when you come to Idaho, you're taught to be a Bronco fan, and it's unifying, and you don't know Kellen Moore from Brett Rippon, and that's okay. Doesn't really matter. Just wear blue and orange, and everything is great. But you have a lot of conservative lawmakers, elected officials, some people that don't like Kevin Miller, and I know who you are, and that's okay. And others that do like Kevin Miller and it's not me, it's this show. It's the ideas and values of this show. And we had to make a decision, the quality of this program years ago. We used to go to Boise State. And when you go, and this is no knock on Boise State, it's just that look, there are people that listen to Boise State that monitor this program that used to be in radio, that are liberals, that disagree with me. We can agree to disagree, but they wouldn't allow the administration to come on this program. And I always believe that. And we have reached out to talk to them on background. We have reached out to talk to them on the record. The university president that makes over $400,000 a year. Some people say she's a nice lady, appears to be a nice lady. She's going to all the football games. And in my opinion, university president should be worried about academic standards and everything else. And again, not that the guy before was any better, Dr. Custer. He was just, he was from east of the Great River, so he didn't mind engaging with people, including all of college football, which in my opinion is the reason why Boise State isn't in a conference, but that's my own theory, a power conference. However, at 580-5436-580-KIDO, you have Dr. Trump, who has an invitation to come on this program. But if you go to Boise State and you can't sit there and pull the gotcha questions, you can't be contentious. And you notice that when Boise State does interviews, they're all softballs. And I get it. Look, I'm the king of softball interviews. In fact, they call me around here Mr. Softy for some strange reason. I don't know what that means. However, back to this issue. So you have Big City Coffee that decides to invest their hard-earned money, a local company. And we've reached out to them, and that's been on me. But I love these people because they put it on the line every day. So how would you feel if you went to Boise State University, which cannot be cheap to have a coffee shop there? You get the local contract. By the way, that was big news that they got the contract. And then you have, in my opinion, which is true, woke students that don't like the police. And they make a big deal out of the thin blue line. My opinion is that if you don't like the thin blue line, then I think you should opt out of police services. I think that if you want to defund the police, you should self-identify, because that's what we're doing. I opt out of police services. I'm just going to be a victim, because sooner or later, unfortunately, we all are victims. I hope that's not the case, but when you're in trouble, you call the police, except if you live in Aurora, Colorado. But back to this point. So all of a sudden, the students got mad, and they were woked, and they decided they were not going to have Big City Coffee at Boise State. From the Statesman, the conflict stems from a post Finley made on social media. She emailed a screenshot of Boise State student private Snapchat story. The student criticized Big City Coffee's support of the thin blue line. The owner, Sarah Finley, addressed this on her personal public Facebook and Instagram post. Finley has been vocal about her support for police online in her downtown shop, which displays a 3x5-inch thin blue line flag near the door, which is a movement to support police. And then you had the public backlash. Students criticized Big City Coffee's support of the thin blue line, and Finley addressed it. And then all of a sudden, everybody had to go. Big City Coffee had to go. In court, she said that as a young girl in the small town of New Plymouth, she had an abusive father. She recalled him giving her mother a black eye when she was in kindergarten. She turned to the police to help and got the help she received from two officers, went on to shape her relationship with law enforcement, perhaps even more influential, she alluded, was her relationship with former fiance Kevin Holtry. My wife went to school with Officer Holtry. Officer Holtry is a hero. And Officer Holtry was paralyzed from the waist down in 2016 after a gunfight with a fugitive on the Boise bench. Holtry's partner, Brian Holland, killed the fugitive, and the two are like brothers. Finley and Holtry became engaged about a year after the shooting. Holtry is no longer with the Boise Police Department, is listed as a witness in the lawsuit. They both attended Boise State. So it went on and on. So back to the Snapchat, which spurred the lawsuit, the student said that while they originally supported having a local business in the space on campus, they could no longer support Big City Coffee because the business supports the police. The student encouraged others not to patronize the shop if they truly support their love of BIPOC peers. BIPOC stands for Black, Indigenous, and Other Peoples of Color. I remember feeling defeated. Finley testified on Thursday. I said, I'm okay. I'm going to address this. And I always address these things as they come up. And then we had this huge brouhaha. And then Big City Coffee was told to leave, in my opinion. Attorneys from the Statesman shared opposing views Thursday on what occurred during the meeting, where they had a meeting with university administrators, and then they were told, you have to go. But the recording was inadvertently stopped before the meeting was over. The last 20 minutes or so were disputed by both parties, and there we have it. Duke said the university administrator set up the meeting to discuss the difficulties they were navigating on how to work together. She said that Finley seemed to assume that Boise State would use the student code of conduct to suppress students who disagreed with her. Oh, that's right. Well, the students pay the bills, so Big City Coffee had to go. During the meeting, in response to pleas for support, Webb told Finley, that's not going to happen, according to Rowe, all these people that were at this meeting. He alleged that in the days following the meeting, Boise State administrators twice asked Finley to join a statement saying the departure was mutual. She declined to do that on both sides. Good for her. This cannot be easy. This cannot be easy. By the way, it cost Big City Coffee $125,000 to invest in supplies to go to Boise State. Let's get your reaction next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Today at 10, followed by Sean Hannity, then Lars Larson. Let's get to our friend David Ferdinand. He's got a big event going on. David, good to have you with us.
Hey, man, I like your show this morning. Hey, we all want coffee, don't we? Or do we?
You know what they say, David? Coffee is for closers. I know you know that phrase very well.
Oh, well, hey, we, of course, my history at Boise State, and, we appreciate you going through the process and giving everybody the insights. I thought Boise State, when it says that Boise State's paid for all by the students, I don't think that's quite true. I mean, your listeners probably know how much money the state of Idaho and the taxpayers put into that thing. So I think you and I got a say in this deal as well. So anyway, that's my point. Hey, I wanted to make sure you knew that today is the last day of the Cutting Horse event out at the Fort Idaho Center, and that's in Canyon County, where we're friendly to coffee as well out there, and they do have coffee available. But that goes on through tonight. I just wanted to remind you that, boy, those Cutting Horse people are from all over the country, and they love to see smiling faces in those stands. I mean, these guys raised about $20,000 for the wishes for warriors, and I mean, they do a ton of stuff out there. So anyway, wanted to remind you. And also headed to the broadcast lunch, and you're certainly invited to come over there and hear what they're doing today, honoring a couple of the KIVI-TV Channel 8 news anchors.
Right, the gentleman from Idaho Falls who his son is Trainer Mike.
Yeah, Jay Hildebrand and Carol Honus. So, yeah, it's going to be a good day. But anyway, thanks, Kevin, for all you do. And hey, just know that we're hanging in there for the Boise State students as well.
Well, we appreciate that. Please tell Steve and Art and you that we all need to figure it out, and I haven't forgotten. We're going to get all of you on, hopefully next week or the week after, to talk about the history of Idaho broadcasting.
Okay, man. We'll do it. Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you, David Ferdinand.
By
the way, those cutting horses are what you see on Yellowstone, so I would go check those out if you're down with that. Okay, let's go back to the phones, 580-5436. 580-KIDO. Mark, the watchdog of Eagle, Idaho. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning, Kevin. You know, listening here at KIDO and the Kevin Miller Show this morning and the callers calling in, as a product of the 50s when I was born, and I've watched how our country has totally de-evolved and become decadent with its political system, something straight out of a banana, republic. The leftist radical demon rat party out there could take a street corner transvestite prostitute, run it on a ticket as president or vice president, and you'd have the lamestream, deep state, underground controlled government that we have promote it and make it look like it's running even with Trump, just like what they're doing now. So, this just look how far we've gone. I mean, where did this all start from? If you look back from the time that the Communist Manifesto was exposed back in the 50s, and we saw the steps of what it was going to take to overtake our country and what we have seen happen within our country now, it's happened. And it's taken decades for this to happen. It's a slow growing cancer in our nation, and it's taken a hold. We have, I don't know how many of our institutions, probably all of them within our government agencies, that are now basically gone the globalist mentality of the globalist socialist movement. Look what's happened to Europe. Look what's happened to England and France this past few months there, what has taken over their governments over there, far left radical socialism. I sent you an article, what's going on with Spain, with Christianity over there in Spain, what's happened. Germany, Italy, look at what's happened. Now what's happening here. All that. We were the last stronghold. Once they finished tearing us down here and putting us on the path to global socialism along with Europe, the party's going to be over until, like what Revelation says is going to happen, okay? But we're going to go through this hell, it looks like. It's really terrible, Kevin. It shows you how far we've come as a nation when you here at KIDO, Kevin Miller, or Sean Hannity, going back any of the conservative talk radio shows out there nationally and even locally, and you are heard nationally too, sir, they have to worry about what they say. I mean, when you have to worry about what you say or express yourself as a conservative person, a Christian, and standing for the Second Amendment and get degraded and put down by the far left deep state with a media complex to back it up, the propaganda ministry, it shows you where we have gotten. If I have to worry about what I say, if I say right now that I am totally outraged that we have Kamala Harris and Biden that were fraudulently, because I know they were fraudulently, and a lot of your listeners out there know they were fraudulently put into power, and our CIA was behind it along with the other deep state agencies in our government. I'm reading an article now about what I just sent you about what happened down in Brazil, how the Biden administration sent Department of Defense officials, Pentagon officials, CIA officials to help take Bolsonaro down there out and put a left-wing crazy dictator back in there again. So what's going on? What's wrong with this picture? Why is this happening? How did it happen? I mean, it's just amazing. If we are now have to worry what we say on talk radio or out there in public, or and we're busy talking about Kamala's height, Trump's orange skin. It's disgusting how degrading this nation, this world has become. It's sickening. And I don't know how we get out of this mess. I mean, do you, sir? Do you see how we get out of this mess? We can sit around and pray, and I know you're a religious man, but we can sit around and pray to God. I mean, look at all the hundreds of millions of billions of people throughout history, from the time of ancient Rome and their barbaric Colosseum things that they did with feeding Christians to the lions, all that stuff. All the people praying to God. It's still, we seem to be going through this torturous life from one millennia to another. And I don't see why. What is the reasoning behind this? We're facing an oncoming global catastrophe with what's going on. It ain't man-made. It isn't because of us greenhouse gases being produced by man. It's being created by a cabal of power-hungry, globalist, socialist thinkers out there who have taken over our government from within. And I don't know how we put a stop to this. You know, I really don't. I guess that's all I got to say.
Mark, you said a lot. We appreciate you listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Let's go to Tea Party Bob, who joins us now. Good morning, Tea Party Bob.
I don't know. That's a hard act to follow, I have to tell you. But you had a lot of good comments here today.
It's not a very positive act to follow.
Well, you know, there aren't an awful lot of positive things going on today, Kevin, in case you haven't noticed.
I think so.
Well, then you got a good outlook on life. I'm glad to hear that.
I mean, look, as you know, I'm a skeptic, but I mean, this show has turned me into an optimist.
Yeah, you don't have a choice, my friend, because the other side is what calls in all the time. You know, I was listening to Ken Goldthorpe this morning, and while I have a lot of respect for Goldthorpe, his comments about this bypass are, as far as I'm concerned, out of sight. If they had put this bypass in and actually looked to prepare for the future back in the 1990s, it would have cost less than half of what it would today. And if they had hit the developers and the industrial complex we have now here in Boise with those impact fees, that because they're going to have more people moving in here, it wouldn't have put the cost on the homeowners. You know, everybody complains about the infrastructure, but nobody wants a place to blame where it belongs, on the developers and the politicians, because developers pay for the politicians' campaigns, and the politicians do everything the developers want. It's as simple as that. Now, to the Kamala
I actually heard that this is what goes on in their meetings. They say, "Mother, may I?" And then yes. and they go and the politicians and the developers tell the politicians, "Yes, you must." So.
Kevin, I know too much about what goes on in that business, so I've said what I have to say. I want to touch base with Kamala's interview, which was a softball interview. You know, she avoided saying anything about her policies and basically talked in circles. Even her depiction of Trump as the reason for the border is open was a complete lie, as the last Senate bill would have done absolutely nothing to stem the flow of illegals. You know, she even tried to make it sound like she was tough on the border as a California AG, when all she did really was prosecute illegal criminals. I emphasize criminals that were across the border. Just one more lie in her continued successive list of lies. Never have I heard more BS in 18 minutes than the interview with her and Tampon Tim last night. If these two are elected to office, we're all toast. I only hope that Trump trounces her in the debate. This lady is a total idiot. And I hate to say it, but I might even entertain having Joey for another 4 years after listening to her last night. I believe she is more cognitively defective than he is. And I agree with Steve from Hayden. It's time to stop offering government freebies. But that is what politicians do. The only difference between Trump and the others is he's going to build an economy back, so we'll be able to pay for some of the additional costs, while Kamala will use the government charge card and put further debt on the docket for us and achieve her goal of health care for all, even illegals, which will do nothing but raise health care costs, dramatically increase waiting times, and for critical medical procedures, which is what happened in England and Canada. Has everyone forgotten Obamacare? You can keep your doctor, your provider, and it will cost less. And just one more thing. 3 months ago, I said that we were going to have serious problems with illegal criminals coming into this country. We are now seeing the beginning of this travesty with the invasion of an apartment building with a heavily armed Venezuelan gang who broke into an Aurora, Colorado building, robbing and terrorizing these people at gunpoint. Then there's the attempted boarding of school buses full of children by illegals in Southern California. And, of course, the beating of police officers in New York. This is just the beginning, my friend. While I don't think this will happen in Boise, the potential is certainly there for everyone, and everyone should be very attentive to what is happening around them. Even our dear friend Sheriff Donahue has been talking about the fact that we should all be aware that the cartels are active in the Treasure Valley, and the name of the game is caution. I haven't got much else, my friend. I think I've said it all. But thank you again.
Yeah, you've said a lot.
Well, I try to get it all in. It's a little difficult sometimes.
Man, it's tough sometimes. You and Mark, man, it's tough to get a word in edgewise.
Well, you got to get a sharper edge, my friend.
I'm a pretty dull guy.
No, I would not say that. You're a pretty smart cookie, my friend.
If I had a brain, I'd be dangerous, to quote my dad. So funny how those things stay with you.
Yeah, I know. I used to hear the same thing from mine.
Yeah. Well, Tea Party Bob, I hear you're going to back the governor now.
What did you say? Have you been talking to Kamala and going a little brain dead or what?
Hey, I hear Mr. Walz is coming to Idaho. Are you going to go see him and catch him?
I don't think that's going to happen, Kevin. And I don't think he's going to come from New Meadows. So I'll just kind of take a pass on that one.
It's really weird, though. I mean, why doesn't he come to Nampa or Caldwell with the real people? Is Ketchum really Idaho?
No, it's not. And I've been there many, many times. It's a whole different place.
Yeah.
It's like, I do believe that at some point in time, New Meadows is going to turn into the Ketchum of Sun Valley, but it will be the Ketchum of Brundage as they continue to build this place out.
Yeah. I mean, you remember Carole King, the singer. She lives in Idaho. She's excited that Walz is coming.
Oh, well,
she lives
should
up
go
there.
down and sing to him.
I don't know. I can't remember her last hit, but whatever. Everybody has a right to their opinion.
Well, I don't care who goes to see the guy. You're just not going to see me anywhere near Tampon Tim.
Tea Party Bob, thank you for the call.
Have a great day, my friend.
Yeah, very memorable. You as well. Hey, the biggest car sale in the Valley is back for Labor Day weekend. These guys will not be taking Labor Day weekend off because they want to get you into a car that you can afford and that is reliable and that is nice. We're talking about, of course, about our friends at Team Mazda. Team Mazda's $5 card sale at the old Kmart in Nampa. Buy new or used with only $5 down. Make no payments for 5 months. Choose from 151 new Mazdas and 122 pre-owned vehicles. All you need for down payment is $5. Aaron and Joel have lenders lined up. They do. And they will fight for you, and they love that. They love doing that like football. To approve financing with only $5 down during the 5 days of this sale, Thursday through Monday. Want more? Okay, they'll include a $1,000 Visa gift card with your new car. You can't beat this deal. New car for $5 down, no car payments until 2025, and get a $1,000 Visa gift card with your new car. Bring $5 out to the old Kmart building in Nampa at the corner of Karcher and the Boulevard, where Team has relocated hundreds of vehicles to the parking lot for this sale. Man, that's a lot of driving of the cars. Look for the big white tent and buy a car with only $5 down this weekend. And our friends Aaron and Joel and everybody. You know, I don't want to be one of these people going, enjoy the weekend. The police people will be working. The movie people will be working. I know my wife's business. They'll be working. We'll be working tonight at the Balloon Classic. By the way, a great event if you haven't been there. We just put this up on our website about the Night Glow. We would love to see you there. However, for those of you that are working or working your side hustle or your triple hustle, let me just say this. Thank you. Thank you for giving a rip. Thank you for your extra effort. Thank you for your sacrifice. Thank you for getting ahead or catching up. And don't feel left out. Don't feel left out because, everybody's off to McCall. Kevin Miller isn't off to McCall. Kevin Miller's just going to be sitting around thinking of you until we meet again. God bless you. I love you. Keep the faith. Beacon Plumbing brings you Fox News. Clay and Buck are next. God bless.